And a very good morning to you. Welcome along to Tuesday morning's OTBAM. Very busy show for you this morning. Loads of GAA coming your way. More from Cork. We're going to speak with Brian Cuthbert, the former Cork manager, who's now part of the steering committee designed to try and bring Cork football forward into the future. Owen, how are you?
Very well. How are you keeping?
I'm very well.
Any crack?
Your love letter to Joey Carbery is flying out the gates on YouTube, on Facebook.
Is it? Yeah?
Yeah.
Good for that.
Yeah.
That's what I had to say. I've said my bit. And again, just full of gratefulness this week. It's as I said yesterday, it is an Irish Thanksgiving for all Munster Rugby fans.
Yeah, but you're like...
Somebody did point out yesterday that, it's all because of you. You're the real MVP.
Thank
you. Really, thank you.
You're getting a bit cocky about this now. You're like, the team just have to show up this weekend and we'll saunter on through to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, like winning in Kingsholm was basically it. Exeter, chief Champions League or Champions Cup chokers showing up in Thomond Park. Even without Peter O'Mahony, you could probably take another 5 or 6 frontline Munster players and still get the job done this weekend.
See, that's the type of stuff that they call that hubris, Owen.
Hubris, schmubris, as they say. As my saying goes, Munster are going to be fine.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Declan Rice and Ireland penning another love letter. Somebody in the FAI deciding that yesterday was the opportune moment to go and... we know from the Yaya Toure story that birthdays are important to footballers.
Yes, extremely important.
And when the story comes to be written, here's the picture. Yeah, happy birthday to Ireland International @_Declan Rice. You think now at this stage his representatives would be able to, dear Twitter, we would like the @Declan Rice handle, thanks very much.
Who is that Declan Rice?
I don't know. But it's not the right one. He's like an important Premier League footballer now.
Yeah.
Soon to be England captain.
It's the best thing a social media person has done for a football organisation, I think, in recent times.
Ooh, @Declan Rice follows us.
And it is...
What if we were to get that Declan Rice handle and give it back to the real Declan Rice on one condition?
You play for Ireland.
Yeah, come on, what could possibly go wrong with this plan?
I think that sounds like a pretty good trade-off. I don't see any reason...
us doing our bit for the national cause.
Absolutely, as the FAI representative has done for their national cause yesterday. It was a very, very good thing to do, right? I don't understand why you could say it was a stupid thing to do, why it was unnecessary. It was very necessary because we need more moments like this, I think.
Really, if Declan Rice decides not to play for Ireland on the basis of the fact that we tried to, tempt the witness by a happy birthday tweet, then maybe Declan Rice was never intended to play for Ireland.
Yeah, it's true. I'm sure he'll find a funny side of it. Just the waiting game everybody played yesterday to actually see would he like the tweet. Has that happened yet? I don't think it has.
The waiting game that Nathan Murphy played yesterday. I don't know if you were...
I was following it.
Following Nathan's tweets.
It was literally the only thing I did yesterday afternoon was wait for one new notification to come on Nathan Murphy's Twitter page.
So Nathan doesn't work on a Monday in the office. He
works very hard from home, clearly.
Well, he doesn't. He minds his children. He's got full control of the entire family unit because his missus is out working. And I'm like, what? You're not paying any attention to your kids. You're literally, all you're doing is scrolling through the likes that Declan Rice has made on Instagram to see what he's been liking.
Well, see, that's the very thing. Declan Rice is all of our kid. We are all a parent of Declan Rice at this point. It is our duty to say, look at what he's doing, look at what social media posts he's interacting with, and trying to gauge what decision our kid is going to make. It's important. I'm not sure about you. I'm sure you care about your children. I care about my children too. Declan Rice is one of my kids, and he's all of ours. So I think Nathan Murphy spending his Monday surveying what he's doing was certainly a productive way to spend the day.
Declan Rice is right now liking happy birthday messages on Instagram, but has yet to like the FAI post. I need to get a life. #journalism.
No, you don't. This is the life.
633 likes. All the millions of euro and thousands of hours that will spend on Irish football over the next decade, and yet it still feels our future success boils down to a 20-year-old lacking a happy birthday tweet. Ireland never wore this jersey when Declan Rice was with the squad. He'd finally worked it out. And then there you go. How many messages can one man like? _Deckers10 is the one, and then there you go. This is 7 hours later. Nathan is still at this. Declan Rice has returned online within the last 10 minutes and liked 6 photographs, but not the one from the FAI. I can only assume he spent the last few hours in a deep meditative state. He's back online 7 hours after that. Still no like. Fairly sure he's gone offline again. More to follow.
And has there been any more to follow? That's 20 hours ago at this point. Oh, sorry, it's 13 hours ago was the most recent one.
Then Steve McCarthy went, Declan Rice shot for FAI Ireland in May.
Well, that debunks
Well, that makes sense.
That debunks Nathan Murphy's
That
theory.
makes sense. You've got a new jersey coming out. You get everybody in the room before the friendlies. You get the photographs taken, and then you release them later on in the air. It's like
There was part of me that genuinely believed that he had lined up for that photo shoot in like September or something. But obviously not. That's so at least we've managed to get rid of that myth.
we should talk about this now, right? Because it's reaching the point where Gerard Piqué's production company or ESPN should be making a live La Décision.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Irish for decision?
We're just stunned silence here. Caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Anyway, we don't need to call it the Irish. We can just call it the Irish decision. Working
Kinna.
title.
Could that be right?
What's it called?
Kinna.
Kinna, maybe. Let's go with Kinna, on Kinna, featuring Declan Rice. What's Declan Rice in Irish? Whatever it is.
Tommy went to a Wales call, so there's no excuse for him.
We can just run with this. Like, the storyline has to be. I really hope there's a fly in the wall documentary being made right now with Declan Rice just looking at an iPad, laughing at all of us. I really hope that's the situation, and he's kind of going from day to day.
This is your pitch to try and get involved, isn't it?
Well, obviously, I've already pitched it to multiple production companies. Here's the idea: we go follow a 20-year-old around with a camera, and he doesn't know what we're doing yet, but we're about to watch him pick Ireland over England. Like the incident at the end of La Décision involving Antoine Griezmann kind of shows a sweet camera pan, and he's standing outside the Wanda Metropolitano. Like Declan Rice standing outside the Aviva Stadium. If anybody spots Declan Rice standing outside the Aviva Stadium with a camera floating around his head, you know he's made the decision to play for Ireland.
But that could just be the alternative ending, you know, like for loads of EastEnders Christmas Day specials, they would film alternative endings where, like, you know, one of the Mitchell brothers dies, or like the old Vic goes up in flames, and you don't know which one they're actually going to use.
Let's do full Black Mirror Declan Rice, where you actually get to choose the ending. So at the bottom of the screen it'll appear England or Ireland, and whoever decides to go with the Ireland storyline gets the Ireland storyline, and whoever gets to go with the England storyline gets the England storyline.
Oh, it's the future. It's just like a long-term...
Pick your own ending television show.
Proper... The sliding doors moment doesn't actually happen. Both alternative realities exist, multiplying into ever-increasing numbers of realities. In fact, we're just inside some child's dream right now.
That's exactly what was coming to my mind as well. How did you manage to think that? It will be kind of a footballing version of...
By higher power.
We could just do like a footballing version of The Only Way is Essex, where it's kind of this hammed up version of reality, and we're actually filming two concurrent things, where Declan Rice is an Irishman and Declan Rice is an Englishman, and you can choose whichever storyline you want to follow.
Does any of this matter? Does any of this matter anymore? Like, we'll be grand without Declan Rice, really.
No, we won't.
We'll achieve the same
We're
level.
all going to die.
Well, that's true. I mean,
We're all going to die a lot quicker if Declan Rice doesn't come on board. He can save the Irish people by joining us.
What would happen? What are the actual consequences of this decision?
Continued mediocrity for Ireland.
If he plays for us?
If he doesn't play for us.
Is he a Jenga piece that transforms our fortunes?
I think he kind of is. Certainly in a few years' time, when he's reached that level of confidence of being a top Premier League player, if he continues the way he's going, if he gets that big move and becomes a starter for a top 6 club, which isn't outside the realms of possibility at this point.
I think everybody's talking about him playing for Man United and Man City. It's like,
to be
he's
fair,
20.
Okay, well, here's the thing. If he joins Manchester City now, say if you put him right in that team, he doesn't get into the starting 11.
Does he not get a load of games at centre-back?
Potentially, like the second leg against Burton with a 9-0 advantage, he like gets that game for sure. But he's probably going to be 22 by the time he becomes a regular in the team. Fernandinho with another season there. I'm not sure he gets in ahead of John Stones and Laporte, to be quite honest with you at this point. Of course, injuries come into play. And then he's fighting with Ilkay Gundogan for the spot when Fernandinho leaves, or they potentially sign somebody else. And he probably beats Gundogan to that particular position. I know I'm using Manchester City as the example here, and you could use any other team in the top 6.
Man United, he gets straight in the team.
Like
or close enough to it, right?
It's easy to say right now that he is a better football player than Matic and Herrera, but I want to see him in the Manchester United team and see him playing in the system that they play in, and seeing him up against teams that are constantly like playing out of their skin to beat you, like Manchester United are always playing. Like, obviously he has a potential to be, from an Irish perspective, one of the best talents of the decade.
So you're saying that we go from being a League of Nations Division 3 team to a League of Nations Division 2, and not fighting relegation, but maybe occasionally getting into Is that the?
That's not that big a gap.
That's the
There's 3
transformative
teams in the
impact.
division.
Well, it's third tier to first tier, nearly first tier.
Okay, so the way we are at the moment, we should be pushing for a promotion to Division 2 So we will. I would like to think we'll be back there next time.
Yeah, when does that group
With or
get,
without Declan Rice.
when does that group get made?
The next qualification.
Right.
So we've got to wait a while yet. But I would say, with or without Declan Rice, we will be pushing for promotion to Division 2 And then it's kind of like, what sort of form are we in for those few months? Like that's the difference between Division 1 and 3. It's like
Okay. So you're saying
it's not like the difference between League 1 and Premier League, for example.
I mean,
The gulf is, but in terms of actually climbing that ladder, it's like getting yourself into the second
we
tier.
qualify for tournaments every campaign he plays 80% of the games in.
I would say he increases our chances massively because it is against a team.
Massively, give me a percentage. Like make a tell us. Explain.
15%.
That's
a sizable jump.
That's nothing.
But for one player, 50. Okay, let's go to 20%. Like that's one fifth of games.
How likely is it that we qualify for every? So at the moment, it's like not likely. We qualify once every 3 or 4 tournaments.
Put it to you this way: if Declan Rice was in the squad for the World Cup qualification campaign, would we have won in Tbilisi? There's a much better chance we would have done. Would we have got something at home against Serbia, or perhaps got the 3 points in Serbia when we were in a decent enough position? Chances are we might have done. Like he improves our chances in those games. Does he take us to become contenders with England and Germany and France and the Netherlands? Obviously not, because we're Ireland. We always will be Ireland.
Do you love him more than you love Joey Carbery?
They're equal at the moment. If Declan Rice picks Ireland, I would love him more than Joey Carbery.
Here's Keith Andrews talking yesterday at the launch of the SPAR FAI Primary Schools 5s programme. Jamie Moore caught up with him and got his take on the Rice FAI tweet.
Well, he is an Ireland international, and hopefully he remains an Irish international. I have to be honest, I would have been one of the ones that was angry when he first decided to press pause on his international career and look at the option of England and just look after club form for the time being. That's certainly decreased in recent months, and I'm just hopeful that he can come back and play for us, because I think he'd revolutionise the team. I think he's that good, and seen a lot of them underage for Ireland, 21s. Didn't really surprise me too much how well he adapted in the 3 internationals that he played. A couple of Man of the Match awards, one of them which I gave him. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed indeed. Here's what's coming up. We're going to bring you through the sports pages. Brian Cuthbert, who is part of the steering committee who've been charged with revitalising Cork football over the next 5 years. He's been part of that 5-year plan. He's going to talk to us about that and indeed the rule changes within Gaelic football, which the decision of which is coming sometime around the same time Declan Rice makes his decision. Conor McGregor versus Paulie Malignaggi. Are we going to see the fight or not? And would you watch it if it's on? Of course you're going to watch it if it's on, right? But do you want to see it? Like, is it the type of thing that, oh yeah, I will actually pay $19.99 of my own money to watch this? Camogie 2019, some changes required, some rule changes perhaps, and a couple of young stars of the game. Going to talk to them around about 8:35 this morning, and 9:05, the Snappy quiz with 2 stars of Snapchat themselves. That's coming your way at 9:05. Digger's been in touch this morning to say Sopranos type ending with Rice. His Twitter will fade to black as he's announcing his decision, and we'll be left wondering if Twitter went belly up.
Thanks for spoiling the ending of The Sopranos there, Digger.
Or if David Gull shot him.
Hopefully I'll forget all of that by the time I actually get around to watching it. Is there like a statute of limitations on when you can actually spoil something for somebody?
Yeah.
So what are we at
20
now?
years.
15 years?
20. Well, I mean, 20 from the start of it. If you haven't started watching The Sopranos by now, you're never going to do it, right, Owen?
I probably will.
Right? What? You're going to do it?
Yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it as long as there's no more spoilers from people like Digger out there.
Yeah.
Like ruining... so I expect to fade to black in the very last episode. That has destroyed everything. I have heard the ending is an amazing cliffhanger.
You and Tommy are going to start watching this?
But is it like one of
He's
those...
like, yeah, Jesus, shoot me now.
Is it like one of those that it's kind of like... It's a wonderful
Pearls Before
life
Swine springs to mind here.
Where like television after The Sopranos got increasingly better through the years. Obviously, The Sopranos is extremely important for being one of the first great television shows. But over time, are you like, that was great in its little prism at that moment, but ultimately time makes things better. Let's not forget the fact that television now is in a far better place than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, but you don't give any credit to the thing that invented it.
Yeah, but
you see Citizen Kane and you go, what's the big deal about this movie? Who cares? A jump cut? Who cares?
You totally give credit to it, but people can take ideas and make them better. People can take the idea of a prolonged story about crime or about violence and make a far better version of it. I'm not denying the importance of The Sopranos.
Give me these far better versions.
I'm not going to fall for the greatness of The Sopranos.
Go on, right.
Based on the idea.
Quickly give me three hostages to fortune that you think are better than The Sopranos without having seen The Sopranos. Go on.
Game of Thrones is one of those.
Okay.
What's so funny about that? Game of Thrones
nowhere near as good as The Sopranos. Go on.
Are you saying that The Sopranos? Wow, that is actually a hot take.
It's nowhere near as good as The Sopranos, and anybody who's seen both knows that to be true.
Well, I've watched all of The Wire, and The Wire is definitely... and I know I'm kind of going back on my own point, saying that, television shows from 2001 are actually kind of crap, because The Wire is absolutely amazing. But The Wire and Game of Thrones would be two of my favourite television shows of that ilk.
Okay, and this is our third one?
Let's go with True Detective. Season 1.
Oh, well, okay, you qualified that. True Detective Season 1's grand. Okay, all right. We have the hostages to fortune. We'll come back to that. If anybody wants to rain on Owen, feel free to do so. Here is this the full thing of the Snappy quiz, or is this just... Okay, so here's just a little bit of the Snappy quiz. This bit is... we've launched a new quiz on Snapchat. It's a version of the crappy quiz. It's called the Snappy quiz. Do you see what we did there? You can follow us on Snapchat and you can subscribe to that, and then we will appear in your feed along with some other good stuff. But we did manage to rope in two of our superstars, Kevin Kilbane and Keith Andrews. Here's how Kev went when Owen posed a relatively straightforward question to him. Have a look.
Kev, you are up. Name as many current Premier League jersey sponsors. You've got 10 seconds. Go.
Bloody hell. It's in betting companies. Honestly, yeah. Bet365, I don't know. Jeez, I don't know. Honestly, I don't pay any attention to betting sponsors.
Oh, what a capitulation. I couldn't even get the word out there. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Did he get one? Is that one? Is that even one? No.
That was Stoke. They're gone from the Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was trying to help.
Chevy.
Let's go from an alphabetical order. To be fair, it's extremely tough. It was much easier 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
So AIA.
If you said to me from the 80s, I'd be going Hitachi, Sharp. I'd be going all these sort of lines. Yeah.
Crown paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a clip from our Snappy quiz, the Snapchat version of our infamous crappy quiz. Once you've finished watching and listening to us this morning, open up Snapchat, swipe right and subscribe to Off the Ball on Snapchat Discover. We're going to post weekly episodes right there on the Snappy quiz. Time for the papers. Here is the Examiner this morning. Okay, so the art of management, Derek McGrath and the intricacies of being boss. This is from the coaching conference, annual coaching conference that the GAA have at Croke Park. Derek McGrath was speaking, and he gave his speech, and that is an artist's impression. It's the animated sketch note. It was produced by the GAA's e-learning project manager David Sweeney using the app Procreate and an Apple Pencil on an iPad Pro. It's pretty impressive because that's him. That's his note taking of it, and you can kind of see. You can see the vast swathe of thoughts that possess one of the great minds in GAA in the last 3 decades, and one of the nicest and best people you're ever going to get to meet. It's a real pity that Derek McGrath's out of management at the moment, but I've no doubt that the kids who are in his class and the hurlers who are hurling from at underage level are benefiting from the fact that he's taken a little bit of downtime to recharge his batteries.
Totally. John Fogarty speaks to him in the sports section of the Irish Examiner from the coaching conference on Saturday, and McGrath kind of talks about that idea of recharging the batteries again, about getting yourself into a position where you're ready to invest emotionally in a bunch of players once again. He feels that if he went right into a county setup right now, there would be a fakeness to it, that it would be the sort of plastic relationship that he would enjoy with the players, which just further emphasises how important the people managing skills are to Derek McGrath's style of management. The way he interacts with his players is almost familial. He's like a father figure to a lot of those players, and to do that so quickly after coming out so recently from an intercounty setup, he feels would be kind of artificial, which is a remarkable thing to say, really. One of the things, you could say that there is contradictions on that artist's impression on the front page of the Examiner this morning, but in actual fact it's just a lot of nuance, saying that there is room for the egotistical while also pushing forward the idea of collaboration quite a bit. So the power of the individual and how a collection of individuals really kind of furthers the idea of the collective in that Waterford camp is clearly something that is emphasised from that illustration.
Yeah. Such a pity that they didn't get over the line, because then he'd always be able to talk forever as an All-Ireland winning manager, and we are so stupid in Irish sport that we rate the hierarchy of achievements on the basis of the outcome of a single game and go, okay, well, you're an amazing manager and you obviously weren't as good as that manager, when actually the truth is, like, the whole point of being involved in sport is that you win and lose, and that it takes two great teams to make a great game. So moving on to the Irish Times, Van Gran keen to second that emotion. That's obviously a preview of the weekend's games. They have Exeter hammered Cast, so they've got Exeter this weekend at Thomond, but O'Mahony's odds of facing Exeter are 50-50 at best. He popped a rib. We talked to Alan Quinlan about it yesterday. Ripped cartilage in my rib cage. Apparently it's very, very, very painful.
Even the process of breathing would be painful with that.
Yeah, and World Cup tickets are on sale, so if you're planning on going to Japan in October to watch Ireland get beaten in the quarterfinals, then are we going to start talking? We should start talking our chances down, shouldn't we?
It's about time. It's about time. Well, like there's a long summer to talk our chances down. We may as well get excited for now and then.
Yeah, should we do the opposite of tempting fate, or do we just say we're going to win the World Cup and brazen it out?
Well, either way we look at it, it's definitely up to us. Whatever we do, we can definitely look back at it and say it was our fault when Ireland inevitably lose the quarterfinal. So whatever route you want to do to take that. Just on the ticket sales, if you're an Irish sports fan who's into a range of things, that you like your rugby almost as much as you like your GAA or vice versa, or as much as you like your soccer, and you've got a kitty put away for an Irish sporting event, this is kind of it, isn't it?
World Cup in Japan.
The World Cup quarterfinal is probably what I'm aiming for. If I could go to one sporting event this year, or even over the next few years, and again, you'd have to be kind of a rugby fan as much as you are any other sport. It definitely is the one, isn't it? It's a chance at seeing something truly historic. So I'd imagine there'll be plenty of Irish people, and not just the usual cohort of people who follow the Ireland rugby team around the world, but kind of more people who are happy to hop on the bandwagon, if you can use that phrase, because I'm sure that they've watched them all on TV over the last couple of years. Now's the time, really, to get that money out. Yeah,
and the thing is, tickets are not going to be easily got. Apparently, the Ireland-Japan game is already effectively sold out, according to Gavin Cummiskey's piece today, and Japanese fans and sports fans and rugby fans in particular are expected to go to lots of games that don't actually just involve Japan. So if you want to get your hands on those World Cup quarter-final tickets, now would be a good time. Category A tickets for that game against Japan are the same as quarter-final tickets, starting at €323 for Category A, Category B 242, Category C 161, and Category D 81 and 20 for kids.
It's not cheap.
It ain't cheap. £300 for a ticket.
The London games, or the UK games for the last one, were fairly expensive as well, if I recall.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of World Rugby and host nation deciding on prices, and it's like, yeah, we know most of these tickets will be bought by corporate entities. Did they sell out loads of those games in England? Actually, I can't really remember.
I get the sense that there was emptiness for a lot of the crap games, but I'm sure that's always the case at the Rugby World Cup. But I'm sure anything involving the 5 good nations and the 6 nations and the tri-nations all went close to capacity at all times.
I see David Wagner has stepped away by mutual consent from his role at Huddersfield. Entirely unpredictable. No one could ever have predicted that with Huddersfield staring down the barrel of relegation, they would no longer be managed by David Wagner.
Yeah,
it's possible that anybody with a brain would have suggested that maybe it might be possible that an owner of a club goes, look, I mean, it's great and everything, you've done an amazing job here, but like, we might actually get out of this thing if you weren't stinking the joint out.
It's probably a bit too late at this point, and it's going to become a relegation battle, which isn't that exciting this year, I do fear, because it's going to be a 4-team battle for the drop. Now, I am getting ahead of myself in terms of the Southampton resurgence quite a bit, and not seeing a team like Crystal Palace plummet into the bottom 3. But I really kind of see it as a Cardiff versus Newcastle shootout for 17th place at this point. And I think Fulham and Huddersfield are doomed. I don't think, no matter what appointment Huddersfield make, I think they're getting relegated.
Did you see the video of the Austrian truck?
I did not.
On Twitter?
No.
Loads of snow, truck driving through the snow. It's got like loads and loads of views. It was all over your Twitter feed yesterday at one point.
Don't really use social media that much.
Fair enough. Robert Flynn does though, and he's just tweeted us, #OTBAM. Lads, @_Declan Rice has just liked this video. Does he have an Austrian granny?
I really hope not.
Okay.
Like, remember when we were starting to get a little bit concerned about Matt Doherty there for a while because of his Dutch relatives?
No.
It's like we do have a huge capability to get really, really paranoid. And I'm not going to lie, I'm feeling nervous after hearing about that Austrian truck driver video.
Okay, so there you go. The Irish Indo. O'Neill and Keane set for reunion at Forest. This is box office from Nottingham Forest perspective. I wonder how often Roy Keane gets pushed out. Do you ever see assistant managers at championship clubs or anything? Ireland's call may influence decision on O'Mahony. This is the notion that with the Six Nations just a few weeks away, the RFU will be keeping a keen eye on the progress of one of Joe Schmidt's crucial pack leaders. Rest O'Mahony. If he's not fit, rest him for the Six Nations games as well.
Yeah, like it obviously is a pivotal result for Munster at the weekend. Do they need Peter O'Mahony to beat Exeter Chiefs at home? I'm not sure they do. Not in European competition, but I can see both sides of the argument here. Munster might want to take that risk.
Okay, Ulster in bid to track down Zebo's abuser. We'll talk about this a little bit later on. And Rice's decision is due within the next 10 days, according to John Fallon. So it might be plenty of time before March. We're expecting to have to wait until March. Rovers compile misery on the Magpies. This is the FA Cup replay. Blackburn against Newcastle tonight.
Back page of the Irish Daily Mail this morning is Jesus closes the gap and Reds plan without O'Mahony for crunch tie. You've also got Philip Lanigan writing why access all areas is vital to GAA's future. Another piece around Derek McGrath at the GAA coaching conference at the weekend. Back page of the Herald is Jesus keeps faith. Double from City striker reduces Liverpool gap to 4. And McGrath ruled out for 6 weeks. So that is Luke McGrath. His knee injury means that he is going to miss at the start of the Six Nations. It's a medial collateral ligament strain. Back page of the Mirror is don't be fooled. Ince claims anyone could have stepped in to rescue United and Poch must get the top job. Paul Ince, as he tends to do, out in force talking about Manchester United. This time he says Manchester United should not rush into the idea of giving Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the full-time Manchester United manager's role. Back page of the Sun is not finished. Forest back Martin to lead revival. And smash and gab. Jesus scores 2 and hits the post. Manchester City 3-0 winners against Wolves last night. Andy Murray on the back page of The Guardian. The final act, they ask. Murray gives everything in valiant defeat. The former world number 1 left the door ajar for a return after his first round exit in Melbourne, but an encore looks likely. The Star, actually, I should mention, Sweet Jesus. Gabriel dials up double to pile pressure on Poole. The Star joins the Star as well. Kingdom giant Kieran Donaghy is their new football columnist. And then finally, the front page of the Daily Telegraph sports section, beaten but unbowed. If that was my last game, it was a brilliant way to finish, says Murray, after his first round defeat.
All right, we'll keep you up to date with everything that's going on in the world of sport with Darren in just a little while. But we want to move on to Gaelic football. Loads to talk about. The rule changes will be voted on this week, but the other big story of the week is the future of Cork football. And I'm delighted to say we've got the former Cork football manager, Brian Cuthbert, on the line with us this morning. Brian, good morning to you. How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much for talking to us. Before we talk about the rule changes or any of that kind of stuff, I just wanted to get your take on what's happened with the 5-year plan that was announced by Cork GAA and especially Cork football over the last while. It seems like it was a very necessary and timely corralling of all of the resources and people who've been involved at the top level over the last while to just do a proper full reset on where Cork football is. How has the response been like, and how important is it that people get behind it now?
I suppose to answer the first part of your question first, I think the response has been quite positive. I suppose that the report was written for Cork, and Cork, I suppose, look, we didn't write the report for the rest of the GAA. We wrote it for ourselves, and I think, internally, I would say, in the main, the response has been very, very positive. I think the people in Cork were looking for a roadmap. The people in Cork were looking for a plan and how we go forward, because obviously over the last number of years, including my own time involved with Cork, our performances weren't good enough. And I think at the stage where we're at, people were, and I suppose the report mentions quite a lot, there was quite a lot of apathy around on the ground in Cork, and people were just moving away from it, and footballers were losing more and more support, and the footballers, I would say, themselves, and this isn't a pure fact, but I would say the team themselves were probably feeling a small bit aloof and a small bit left alone, and performances and results sometimes do that in sport. But I think that the plan has given kind of almost a new lease of life to the whole setup and the whole Cork GAA and Cork football family, and I think there's good direction there. So I think it was timely. It was opportune in terms of we needed to do something, and I think on the ground, as I say, the response has been very, very positive.
How did you come to be involved? Because obviously, for somebody who is involved at the senior inter-county level, yourself and Conor Coonahan were both part of it, and obviously it was important that information that you guys had gleaned over the period of time that you'd been involved with the senior inter-county team wasn't lost. Was it an easy enough decision for you to get involved again and to recommit?
Look, I suppose the big thing is that even after being involved with Cork senior team, I haven't run away from Cork GAA or anything. I'm chairman of my own club. I'm involved in other committees as well with the GAA. And I suppose I was honoured to be asked by Tracy to come onto the committee. And I suppose that the point is that Conor and Graham are household names in Cork. I wouldn't be putting myself in that bracket or anything. And I just felt that I'd be very, very happy to work with the two of them and Tracy in delivering a plan for Cork. And I think it was needed. And whatever inputs I could give, I was happy to give. And as I say, I was very, very happy to be asked. And I think we knew as a group of people that we had no choice here. It just had to be done. And you ask how did I come about being asked? Maybe there were other people who were asked and didn't want to do it, but I don't know what way it ended up. But I was happy enough to do it, as I say.
Yeah.
What's your continuous role now in it, Brian? Is there a role for you in terms of appointing the performance director and appointing the other personnel involved in this plan?
I don't think so. I think those have to be done externally. Obviously, there's going to have to be some representative from Cork County Board and that, but I'd like to think from the discussions that we had all along that there'll be outside expertise brought in for the appointments themselves, so that there'll be absolute transparency around the whole process, and that Cork will get the best person for these jobs. Sometimes internally, when like any job, you're going after the best person, and I think to find that best person, you need people with absolute expertise in each of those areas to go after and get those people.
When it came to actually compiling the details of this report, you said it was a report by Cork for Cork, but to what extent did you look at other elements that have kind of taken place in the county successfully over the past decade or two, Dublin being the obvious example? Now, Dublin, of course, different in terms of the fact that I suppose football isn't at times dwarfed by hurling, but did you take elements from that, like the Blue Wave report and things like that?
No, I don't think so, no. If you look at the report, it's based really on a model that's used elsewhere in sport across the world in terms of looking at high performance sport in particular, and the pillars inside it. We actually put in 11 pillars of the model. We were looking at 10, but it's not based on anyone else's model in Ireland. It's not based on the Blue Wave. We didn't even go near that, because context is absolutely vital, lads, and the fact that Cork has particular issues and Cork has particular strengths and Cork has particular, I suppose, traditions, and they all have to be, to front, middle and central in terms of the plan, because if you borrow from somewhere else in terms of, this is what Dublin did, or this is what Kerry did, or this is what Mayo did, it doesn't work. And I suppose in our particular context, we're very, very aware of the challenges that we have. So I think that the plan represents a roadmap around those challenges and to actually tackle the challenges and actually move Cork football forward.
Can I ask you a question about the underage structures? Because obviously hurling in Cork underwent its own kind of period of self-reflection quite a while back, and the outcome of that has been swashbuckling success at underage level, which eventually everybody feels will transfer to senior level. Does football in Cork at underage level enjoy the type of teeming popularity that it seems to enjoy in other counties? Like you're hearing stories of some of the bigger clubs in Dublin just not able to cope with the demand that they have for the kids at under 6, under 8, under 10. And is football in Cork as trendy for young parents as it has been around the rest of the country?
I would like to think so in lots of ways, but I think it's still here in Cork. I think it's still geographical in terms of its popularity. I think there are large parts of the city, and there are some parts of other parts of the county that football wouldn't be overly popular, and hurling would be extremely popular. I do think that hurling is the game in the larger population bases within the county. That's a given. But I also do think that there's an unbelievable, unbridled passion for football across large parts of the county. And I think, if you go back to our last time that we won All-Ireland in 2010, football was very popular then. But the very fact that the team had their next National League game in the first game of the year, the following year, with 587 people versus Monaghan, tells its own story. If Cork were after win the All-Ireland hurling final, I'm sure that there'd be a lot more than that there.
Yeah.
Did that surprise you at the time? Did you think that this would be a turning point from a kind of football interest perspective in the county?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought at the time that team in particular, they were trying to get over the line for a while. They had come on usually under Billy. Then Conor came in. He did a massive job with them, and they eventually got over the line in 2010. And I thought it was going to be a massive, weight off the whole county's back. And I thought everybody would, be driving on, but signs on, that wasn't the case. But I suppose, look, in terms of where we are right now, we're in a different place than we were then, and the very fact that now we have a roadmap as such, that there's absolute necessity that is going to be followed, I think it will bring a huge direction and a huge synergy to the county in terms of how we do our business here.
Brian, what did, when it came to the definition of Corkness, what did Corkness mean to you?
Yeah, it's funny, that word, I even asked last Wednesday, is there such a word? And the journalist told me, yeah, there's such a word. I almost thought that we coined it during the process, but...
Which journalist said that?
I'll keep stum on that one. And he's not even from Cork. But what I'd say is that, I suppose we wanted the plan, and some people might look at it and say, geez, this is silly talk, and Corkness is silly, and this and that. I think, like every county in the country, our sense of place in the GAA is what drives us most. Sometimes people in Cork, we can be OTT about it. Certainly when we're on top, I would imagine we're hard to listen to. But I would think that that for me, as is the case in every other county, we're very, very proud people. We're extremely proud of our heritage and extremely proud of our traditions. I think we, that sense of Corkness, that word, I think that stirs something in every Cork woman and man and child in the county. And I think the GAA is rooted in our DNA, as it is the case in many, many, many other places around the country. But I think for us to be, I suppose in a way, ridiculed or being scoffed at due to where we're at, it's not a nice place to be. And I think that sense of it's almost tribalistic that, we need to pull ourselves out of this, and we need to climb out of this, and we need to do it together, and we need to say to people, we're not going away, that we will come back again, at some stage, and we will get this right at some stage. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, and I think no better group to do it. Yeah,
just one final point, Brian. Like, in a weird way, I wonder, does it give you hope how quickly, I don't want to use the verb unravelled here, but how quickly things have kind of taken a step back over the past couple of years? Because you look at your own last year involved with Cork, and obviously that famous game at this point, the first game down in Killarney in 2015, but also kind of during your tenure, a relatively stable place in Division 1 of the National Football League, that using all that kind of landscape over the past 5 years or so, there is a sense that this Cork team is still underachieving with the current players. Like, that must give a tiny bit of hope for the short term anyway.
I do. I think there's big hope for the short term. And even in the McGrath Cup last Sunday, even though we didn't win against Clare, so be it. There's a lot of players there, 18, 19, 20 years of age. But I think the fact that at inter-county level at the moment, you can spiral into a huge sense of positivity, but you also can spiral into a huge sense of negativity. And I think more than anybody, the players right now, they need people behind them. They need support. They need, we know where we're at. We know the position we're in, and I think our players need to feel some level of warmth from all of us, from all stakeholders, and some level of support from all stakeholders to actually allow themselves to be pulled out of this in time. It could even happen this year. I'm not quite sure in terms of the team moving forward. I'm sure they will, because they're working extremely hard. But I suppose the inter-county team is the flagship team for the county. The plan references huge other areas that need attention, and that in time will allow us to be the best version of ourselves that we possibly can be. And I think at the moment, the county is so big, and we have, there's a lot of different stuff going on in terms of the challenges that we face. I just think that it's going to be a longer process of more than just this season to get all the stuff that we need to get right.
Brian, we did want to chat to you about the new rules in Gaelic football. You're on the Standing Rules Committee. The vote this Saturday, really the pivotal one as to how many of these rules, if any of them, actually make it through to the National League. Just before we get into them, what is the actual process this Saturday? Is there 5 separate votes on 5 of the different rules, or is it a one-size-fits-all vote for the National League?
No, I would imagine. I suppose we're at the stage in terms of the committee I was on. We're at the stage that we are no longer part of this process right now. I suppose we brought the rules to management. Management agreed them, and Central Council agreed them for the provincial cups and the National League. Then I suppose after that, as you all know, there was discussion had, and that the 19th was marked in the calendar as a time where we would actually review the provincial cups and see how they went. Now that's going to be an independent review from Rob Carroll, who's a statistician that was used in the process. And after that, I would imagine each of those rules will be voted on separately.
What's your take on why there's been such a negative reaction to the rules, Brian?
I suppose, guys, there's a number of things really, I suppose, in the fact that there are a lot of them there. We don't like change at the best of times. And I think maybe 5 rules at one time might be difficult for some people to swallow. But at the same time, even before, I would say there was negativity even before any game was played from some quarters, and that's fine too. And I think the committee was very, very, very realistic in understanding that this is going to be a difficult sell in terms of the level of change we spoke about. But at the same time, I think the committee was extremely, extremely, extremely concerned about where football was going, and I think that was our biggest driver, the fact that there was a feeling that football was turning into a complete possession game, which is fine. It's fine if that's the way people want it to go, and I suppose that's the democracy in the GAA. If that's the way we want our game to go, then let's leave it go that way. But right now, I suppose the committee was put in place to actually examine robustly what's actually happening, and then put in place rules or rule changes that might allow us to the game to evolve maybe in a different direction.
Yeah, because some of the things that have been said, and it is, I'll admit, all inter-county managers really that have really grabbed the headlines over the past couple of weeks have been extraordinary, really. Declan Bonner saying it's a waste of time. He says it's crazy. I don't know how 10 men can sit around a table and come up with the 3 hand-pass rule. They can't have much to do. And there's a couple of other things which I'm not sure if they're true or not. We might be able to get you to clarify this. I presume it wasn't just a case of 10 men sitting around a table kind of floating ideas out there. You mentioned Rob Carroll there. There was a lot of thought and information that went into this.
I suppose I read at the very start that people were claiming that the actual methodology was almost too academic, and I would imagine that was maybe a slight at the committee chair and the fact he's a professor. But I have never been involved in something that was so robust and so well thought out. And very quickly, it went from discussion and video analysis to engaging county boards, engaging the head of the referees authorities, engaging players through the GPA, engaging managers. All managers were written to, only 12 responded. Then I went into a period of trial games where these were videoed and recorded, and we came back and watched all them, those who couldn't get to the games live. And, the methodology behind the decision-making process, I would say, would stand up anywhere. And I think that's the most crucial point. And I also would say that, we had worked out that I think there was 162 games between the provincial games and the National League. And a trial like this needs that length of time to actually say this rule is good or this rule doesn't work. Because with any rule changes, there are going to be unintended consequences. And you can't predict what they are going to be before you see them in action. So even in the trial games, there was, on the kick-out, there was a different rule put in place first. We watched the trial games, and it was fair to say that some of it was unworkable, and we said, okay, that needs to come out. And I suppose that process will still be on the table at the end of all this, I would imagine.
Turlough O'Brien then said it was a tactical ploy to propose 5 rule changes because you know that not all 5 of them would get through. Is that true?
No, I don't think so. I think each one of those rule changes, I think, there's desire from the committee that I was on and all the meetings that we were at, that hopefully that the 5 of them will get through. And it wasn't a case of we put in 5 to get 2. No, we put in 5 because we felt there were the reasons that there were aids to turning the game into somewhat of a contestable game again, because we felt, yes, managers are complaining about it, yes, maybe the county players are complaining about it, but it's all our game. It's all our game. And I think, we need to be cognizant of that. The game belongs to everybody, and I think when you have situations where people are just, it's a bit like what I spoke about earlier with Cork, that there's an apathy about football, and hurling is blowing out of the water exponentially in terms of the way it's going. There was a feeling in the committee that this belongs to all of us, and let's have an experiment. Let's have an experiment in the provincial championships or the provincial cups, and let's have an experiment in the National League. Now, I know how important the National League is to everybody, but it's our only opportunity to experiment. So, are we just going to say, it's fine, let's leave the game be a possession game where you can keep the ball for 3 or 4 minutes and not give it back to the opposition? That's fine if that's what we want. But a lot of people don't want that.
Yeah. Like the great irony, of course, in all of this and the reaction from the managers is that, as Malachy Clerkin pointed out in his piece yesterday, that there was only 12 responses from inter-county managers, despite the fact that the Standing Rules Committee wrote to every single one of them looking for feedback on the proposed rules. The one other thing I wanted to ask you, whether or not it's true or not, Brian, is Kevin Walsh's statement that television pundits are having too much of an influence on the game. At any point were you influenced by what was said on, say, the Sunday game last year?
No, none whatsoever. No, I would hand on heart. I don't know how many meetings we must have had. But at no stage was comments from pundits or comments from games at halftime or after games. None of that was ever looked at. This was a very, very robust methodological process where we went through step after step after step before coming to an agreement through a democratic process of deciding what we want to put on the table for experimentation. It was as simple as that.
One last thing, you mentioned there that your work now is done effectively for this process. It would seem to me that it would make sense that rather than waiting for everything to reach the crisis point that it's reached, and I think everybody agrees that the game is in crisis at the moment, that maybe a standing rules committee could tweak things year on year and take forward all the information and knowledge that you've had, and whether or not the committee changes and the makeup of that committee changes, but there's some continuity so that a few people have been in the room over a long period of time and said, yeah, we tried that and we had that conversation and here's why we didn't go with that in the past, so that this knowledge is propelled forward, and next year there's one rule change that people are talking about.
That's exactly what happens. Like the committees are put in place by the president when he comes in, so his term is 3 years. So this is a 3-year committee. Now, many of the committees that I'm sitting on have been on the previous committee as well, and the previous committee to that. So all of that knowledge moves forward, and I think that's the way this committee is so important. I think it always will have somebody who's been on the previous committee. So, this is a tranche of rules that have been looked at for the National League for this year. The committee again will meet again in very soon in the next number of weeks and start the process again for next year in terms of looking at, even if these come in now on Saturday, they'll still have to be re-examined.
Yeah, so you would hope that they are allowed through on Saturday, and then at the end of the league campaign everybody can sit down with a proper sample size. Exactly. Like, as I say, I think it's in around 160 games. I think that will be plenty of games to give us trends and give us an analysis to happen. Now, I know people will be saying, we've seen already from the McKenna Cup, or we've seen from the McGrath Cup, that this doesn't work and that doesn't work. I would just, plead that we're given a longer trial process. Well, that makes sense. Brian, great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Thanks, lads. Thanks a million. Brian Cuthbert there giving us some thoughts on the situation in Cork and indeed the rule changes. It'd be terrible for the rule changes not to come through. How are you going to get people to serve in that committee ever again? Do all this work, do the analysis, go through everything rigorously, give everybody the opportunity to have their say, get snubbed, bring the rule changes in, get snubbed again. Yeah, there is a lot of talk, and it has become the line of this debate about addressing, the cause rather than the symptom. But within the rule changes and within the implementation of them, there will also be causes and symptoms. And one of the causes for the early teething problems we've had with these rules is the referees not having enough help.
And that may boil down to a more elementary level as well in the wider scheme of things. But in terms of how the game is played, in terms of the attractiveness of the game, referees failing or not having enough help is not the reason why Gaelic Games is not an attractive enough prospect. But it might be the reason why these rule changes aren't effective enough, and these rule changes are there to make the game more attractive. So I think we need to be patient, and I want to see them involved for the National League.
Yeah, and look, there are going to be mistakes. It's one league campaign, and then at the end of the league campaign, there'll be evidence-based decision-making as opposed to, well, I've thought about this for 15 seconds and I don't think I'm going to go with it.
And games on TV, everybody will be able to watch full games of this whenever they want, rewind it, watch it again. What sort of an impact is this having?
So here's a video that Ben McGuckin put up. It is the referee blown for 1 and 2 hand passes in the Derry-Tyrone game. So this 3 hand pass rule has to go. The inconsistency of refereeing is shocking. If top officials can't keep it up, how will club level refs cope? Roll it there, Oisin. So that's kick pass. There's the hand pass. 1, 2. Referee blows it. Ref, you bollocks. 1 hand pass. 2 hand passes, 3 hand passes, kick, and then a dribble, looking for the kick pass, dribble, hand pass, 1 hand pass. So there you go. That's it. I mean,
that should have obviously been spotted, but like. Maybe there's a learning process for referees as well. I'm not sure what the learning process is that you get 1 hand pass wrong. It's probably just a momentary lapse.
Just to point out, Ben McGuckin he plays football for Glen. He's an ex-Ulster GAA coach, co-founder of Oakleaf TV, head of performance analysis at Derry GAA, and has an MSc in sports performance analysis.
Yeah, well, to be fair, like we can see the video evidence there. The referees clearly got it wrong. So who's that? Eamon Brannigan, I think, was the referee there. Just by looking at the appearance of the referee, like one of the top officials in the country. Like it's
I don't know who the referee is.
Like it's as I say, a momentary lapse. But like we've seen the evidence there. It was got wrong. Maybe like just getting used to these rules might help the referees a small bit even, and that'll eradicate glaring errors like that.
Or do you take it out of the referee's hands and say that it's the linesman's job to count the hand passes?
Yeah, like
Kieran Brannigan.
Eamon Brannigan is the Galway footballer.
There you go. Definitely not him.
Yeah, so like maybe do linesmen already have enough on their plate?
No, they're not doing anything. They're just lusting after the main gig in the centre there. All right, let's move on because we want to talk about this. It is Paulie Malignaggi, the boxer and analyst who was on Off the Brawl, our combat sports show on Saturday night. He challenged Conor McGregor to a winner-takes-all person-on-the-line boxing match, which never happens. But, maybe just this one time. For 100 million, they could risk it all. Have a look.
There's no fight that he can make that when he makes more money than he does fighting me. The problem is he gets beat by me. Because at this point, why are you looking to fight Japanese featherweights for half the money than you would fighting me if you can beat me? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you trying to make fighting as Japanese featherweights? You know what I'm saying? Where you're going to make half the money, if not even less than half the money than you would fighting me. You know what I'm saying? You kind of have to. We need the fans and the media to kind of put 2 and 2 together and make 4 at a certain point. And I don't think they're cognizant of that or understanding that. Hearn can easily put the fight together. I'm sure Heyman can easily put the fight together. Showtime has said they'd be interested in it. I don't think there's a. I don't think it's a no-brainer at this point. I don't think it's any secret at this point. There's money in the fight, but I don't need money. I'm not going to go to mixed martial arts. He's going to box me if he fights me, and he's going to catch a bed.
Yeah. So if real talks do happen for a boxing match, it's something you'd definitely still be interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And a boxing match would be interesting. And I'd love to do a winner-take-all fight just so he'd go for free, but I don't think he'd ever agree to that. I would love to fight Conor McGregor in a winner-take-all fight in a boxing match. I absolutely would love it because I would beat him to a pulp. I would hospitalize him, and then I'd make him go home broke too. But he knows it, and so it's a shame that even if the fight were to happen, I don't think he has the guts to really agree to terms like that.
Yeah. Paulie Malignaggi calling out Conor McGregor on Off the Brawl on Saturday. Everybody knows this fight could be made. It feels to me like this fight could be made at this point.
What's going on here again? Can somebody please remind me why these guys hate each other?
So Paulie Malignaggi helped Conor McGregor out by sparring with him
Yes.
in advance of the Floyd Mayweather fight.
Yes.
At that stage, Malignaggi is really just a pundit. He hasn't fought competitively since 2017, in fairness, was his last fight. So what is that? 03, 04. So it is March 2017.
So we're talking about the video here. We're talking about Malignaggi getting knocked down and McGregor posting the video.
Well, no, it's the picture. The picture.
Oh, the picture.
Because the video showed that he, it wasn't as bad as the picture looked.
So I haven't missed anything here.
No.
There hasn't been some sort of slur against Malignaggi's family or a Malignaggi slur against the Conor McGregor family.
I think things probably got a bit out of hand.
A little bit, but so basically, your mate posted an embarrassing photograph of you, and you now want to kick the shit out of that guy.
Well, your professional photographer, who you pay to make you look good, posted the photo of you looking good.
I'm sorry, that's hilarious. Like, this is clearly a hammed-up rivalry, as a lot of these things are. They don't really hate each other. They can both see dollar signs, and they can see nothing else at the moment. This thing is fake. This is just a fake conflict between two people who want to get into the ring.
They would have had the fight by now. They definitely would have had the fight by now. Why would McGregor go and get his head kicked in by Khabib rather than fighting?
Because he really wanted to return to the octagon.
Somebody who he believes he can actually beat.
Because he really believed he could beat Khabib.
How much money is he going to make for this versus how much money he would make for Khabib? How much do we know really how much he made for Khabib? Was it 10 million or 15 million or 20 million? Like, that figure's never actually released, right? But the figures for the pay-per-view for this would actually be decent, because then you've got the crossover appeal of the boxing fans. I'm interested in this. I don't think it's completely made up.
Boxing
I'm not
fans care?
interested.
Yeah, I think Paulie Malignaggi has managed to talk everybody into... I actually think that Paulie Malignaggi was very pissed off and has been pissed off since the get-go.
He's a genius. He's a genius for working his way into the Conor McGregor circle. Like, it's an absolute masterstroke from Paulie Malignaggi here. The best thing that ever happened to that guy was his press photographer screwing him over.
Paulie Malignaggi will, over the course of... Actually, you know what? Over much shorter amount of time than Floyd Mayweather did in that fight, beat Conor McGregor. And he will beat him, because Conor McGregor is not a very good boxer. And so this is like, of course he's going to talk himself into this fight, because he's going to win it, and he's going to win it easily.
He's also going to steal all his money, apparently. He's going to send him home broke.
Winner takes all. What even is that? That makes no sense. I mean, I can understand the appeal of Floyd Mayweather, the undefeated boxer, the biggest name in boxing. I understand the appeal of getting back in with Khabib. Is, can you still do it at that level? But I don't understand why you'd want to fight Malignaggi, a lad who is basically just a training prop. He was a boxing bag while he was there. I don't understand how they think that would draw. Why do they think people would buy into it? If it does draw a dime, it'll be because McGregor's name's on it. Nothing to do with Malignaggi.
I don't agree with that. I actually don't agree with that at all. I think that there's a... I think that Paulie Malignaggi is famous in the boxing world. Like, boxing fans see him fight side or ringside as part of the commentary team on some of the biggest fights. So they're like, oh, that guy. And he's fought some real people in the past. Now, he's lost to some real people in the past, but he's beaten some good names. He's been in with Amir Khan, beat him. He was in with Ricky Hatton, who also beat him. He beat Zab Judah, who is a name that people will remember from the welterweight division.
He's retired, Jerry. He's finished. I mean, is that gonna...
This is worse than the May-Mac fight, in terms of a credibility for the sport. Spectacle, right?
Who cares about credibility for the sport?
Like,
what's that got to do with anything?
You're talking about real boxing fans getting on the bandwagon here in terms of pay-per-views.
And will happily pay. Like,
Not sure about that. I
think you can remember, Andy Lee always says, you put LeBron James in one corner, you put pick whoever you want, pick the fastest sprinter in the world, pick the best cyclist or footballer in the world, and there's a fight in the fourth corner. What are people going to watch?
Well, okay, hold on a minute.
Okay,
that's some kind of like battle royal. That's
going to
different.
watch this fight because
you put LeBron James in the corner. So what's he doing? He's just
standing there, Owen.
He's like shooting jump shots, just standing there. Like, so
he can do whatever he wants.
LeBron James is like dunking on Kevin Durant. I'm probably going to watch that. Two guys fighting each other.
Why would they be dunking each other on the street corner?
Well, see, this is the thing. It's such a ridiculous analogy.
Okay, well, it actually isn't. It makes perfect sense. People will watch a fight.
No,
people are drawn to fights.
I will watch LeBron James 10 times out of 10 rather than watch Paulie Malignaggi fight Conor McGregor. I can't even say his name anymore because I'm so exercised about this.
It's ridiculous. Like, Malignaggi is grabbed onto McGregor's coattails and he will not let go until he gets some kind of fight.
But to say that that's like the best of all the sporting spectacles you can possibly put together is McGregor McGregor versus Malignaggi is a ridiculous point.
That's the least interesting fight.
You said if you have these 4 things in the corner, you're going to pick the fight.
People standing
The
there.
standard of that fight matters.
No, it doesn't. It actually
does.
It could be a fight outside of bad chippers in a provincial Irish town,
If
and everybody gathers around to watch it.
If LeBron James is outside the same chipper, I'm looking at whatever LeBron James is doing. Of course I am.
I mean, you really aren't. Because he's walking over to see the fight. That's how that works. He's getting off his corner and going, oh, there's a fight over there, I want to watch it.
This got ridiculous.
Well, I think that maybe, maybe went over your head a bit.
I legitimately hope that we do see LeBron James with a spice bag.
Do you really not think that anybody's going to watch this fight? Is that what you're saying? You're saying nobody's going to watch. Paulie Malignaggi fights Conor McGregor, is not going to do business, not going to make money.
It will make decent
makes
business
sense.
because Conor McGregor is extraordinarily famous. I think that there will be a number of boxing fans who will say that this is another shame on the sport and shouldn't be happening, and I will certainly not be putting them, and they would certainly not be putting their money towards it.
It's not a great metric for success, though, whether or not people watch it. Like, people watch Air Crash Investigation at 2 a.m. It doesn't mean that they're really interested in aviation or air crashes.
Yeah, but hundreds of millions will be spent on people buying the right to watch this.
I doubt it.
Do you?
Yeah.
You think it would be an unsuccessful fight?
Hundreds of millions from Malignaggi McGregor.
Yeah, I think that it would gross It would gross 200 million.
What did Mayweather McGregor gross?
What?
What did Mayweather McGregor gross?
I don't know.
Because I would say this would be half of that.
Yeah, but that's like
a lot. Like even less than half of that. I just really, I think you can't just say Conor McGregor boxes, therefore does similar numbers. You've got to factor in the Floyd Mayweather element to that fight.
And you've got to factor in that Paulie Malignaggi has managed to talk us into this. I genuinely believe they don't like each other.
Talk you into it.
Well, yeah. 300 million.
Sheep there.
Mayweather earned 300 million from the McGregor fight. McGregor earned 100 million. So that's 400 million for them. You've got to assume that there's another 400 million floating around. So this fight's going to get made, and I can't wait to see it. Paulie Malignaggi's going to win. That's my prediction.
Comfortably. Is he going to hospitalise Conor McGregor, as he says?
Well, I mean, most boxers go to hospital afterwards for a checkup anyway.
So, pedantic Pete over here.
Loser leaves town. Winner takes all. I'm going to take your family. I'm going to take your money.
Winner takes all is not that unusual. Like, there was a great period in boxing history where the winner would take all. That was the whole point of the prize fights. You put up the prize and the winner takes the prize. The whole notion that, like, the defending champ, because he's got the belt, gets to have more money is actually bollocks. Like, you can lose the fight and make the most money.
Yeah, it's like a parachute payment.
It makes no sense. Darren.
Manchester City have cut Liverpool's lead at the top of the Premier League down to 4 points this morning. Gabriel Jesus scored a brace as City beat 10-man Wolves by 3-0. The Brazilian followed his 5-goal tally in 2 cup games last week with a first half double as City recorded a 5th consecutive win in all competitions. Wolves had Willy Bowley sent off for a lunge on Bernardo Silva. Their misery was further compounded when Conor Cody netted a late own goal. City boss Pep Guardiola reckons this win could be vital at the end of the season.
We played a lot of time with 10 against 11. We should attack a little bit more, especially the last 20-25 minutes when came in. But we were solid. We don't concede chances. And of course, 3 more points and try to put pressure for the team is in top of the league. We cannot control what they do. We can control what we can do. And the only way to put that is being there. Being there, and maybe one day they fail and try to be in there. But it's pretty sure if we don't win, they will be champions.
Sam Allardyce is the favourite to succeed David Wagner at Huddersfield. He left his role last night with the Terriers bottom of the Premier League. They're 8 points from safety and they've taken just 11 points from 22 games this season. Allardyce, who has never been relegated as a manager, is the strong favourite to take over. The club chairman David Hoyle called it a sad day for the club and said that Wagner would go down in Huddersfield history. If Big Sam gets the job this week, his first game would be against Manchester City. Purists are excited of this meeting of the football minds.
All this tippy-tappy stuff, everybody keeps going about the right way to play football. It's all a load of bollocks sometimes.
Meanwhile, the former Republic of Ireland manager Martin O'Neill is set for a swift return to the dugout. The 66-year-old will become the next Nottingham Forest manager later today. He's set to succeed Aitor Karanka. As a player, O'Neill won the European Cup twice and also helped them win the league. Forest currently 4 points off the playoff spots in the championship table. Now, Keith Andrews believes that his stock will be quite high in England.
And I would imagine from his perspective it hasn't sat well with him, the level of criticism. There's a stark contrast to the thoughts on Martin O'Neill in England compared to where we are here in Ireland and Dublin, because the general train of thought in England would be, well, he didn't have the players, what else could he do? I certainly didn't buy into that. I had a lot of sympathy for the players in terms of what they were getting. I felt let down by the management team. So that would be the train of thought in England. How well it's been received by Nottingham Forest fans, I don't know. But there will be some, obviously, with the romantic notion of him coming back to the club. He'll get them all around. He's a Clough clown, let's be honest, in terms of how he goes about things.
Now, there's more from Keith Andrews on the website offtheball.com. Derby County manager Frank Lampard doesn't believe spying tactics were employed during his time at Chelsea. Andre Villas-Boas reportedly said he would secretly watch the opposition train during his time working at Stamford Bridge under Jose Mourinho. The English FA have opened an investigation into Leeds United head coach Marcelo Bielsa, who admitted sending a member of staff to spy on Derby training last week. A Telegraph interview from AVB from 2011 resurfaced over the weekend, where he was quoted as saying, "Travelling to training grounds often incognito to pick up information on opponents is what Mourinho wanted, as he would leave nothing to chance." Leeds have formally apologised to Derby and reminded their manager of the integrity and honesty of the club. Lampard described the incident as bad and said it was disruptive as his side lost 2-0.
There were talks about Chelsea used to do this years ago. I certainly wasn't aware of it, and I don't believe it at all. So for people to try and throw up that it happened in other places and it's all fine, that's just not what it is as far as I see. So I wouldn't partake in it, and that's the end. I think he said everything you got to say, and when I said angry, I wasn't angry with that. I was angry with the fact that I knew we can go to Leeds and play better. I was talking about football. In terms of that, I don't want anything more. I certainly don't want to be the person that keeps going on about an issue when it's gone. It's for the authorities to deal with.
I'm not going on about this, but somebody better sort it out for me.
I mean, it's a great excuse. We've been beaten 2-0, but what about the guy in the bushes? What about him? It's a great way of getting away with murder.
Needs an enforcer. Darren, you also spotted the same kind of hilarity that I did at the weekend when Bielsa was interviewed on Sky Sports, and via an interpreter admitted that it was him. So I immediately thought the interpreter was the one doing all the spying, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. It was Marcelo Bielsa who was responsible.
Did you literally think?
No, I didn't.
There was a joke, I think, that went over everyone's head. Oh, and we were just too clever for everyone in the world. Munster could be without Peter O'Mahony for Saturday's pool-defining Champions Cup clash with Exeter Chiefs. The Ireland international was replaced in the 45th minute over the weekend win over Gloucester, 41-15. That game finished. The flanker had a scan on a rib injury sustained, and head coach Johan van Graan says his chances are 50-50 at best.
He's gone for a scan this morning. He's had some treatment over the weekend, obviously with a bang to the ribs and the rib cartilage. You do have a lot of pain, so it's not something that just goes away. So we'll give him every opportunity to recover up to Saturday. Unfortunately, if you're a forward, it's not something that you can hide when you go into the breakdown or you steal a ball or you're involved in a maul. So had a chat to him this morning. He's very open-minded about it. He'd love to play in this game, but his body's got to work with it first and foremost it's Pete's health that's the most important.
Racing 92 say they strongly condemn the racist insults allegedly aimed at Simon Zebo during Saturday's Champions Cup clash with Ulster. In a statement, the French club say today, racism has no place in rugby, in which the values of solidarity and togetherness are the exact opposite of any forms of discrimination. Ulster are appealing for anyone who can assist in their investigation to contact them, and underline that the club will take the strongest possible action if anyone is found to have racially abused the Ireland international. While in tennis, Serena Williams has secured her spot in the second round at the Australian Open. The 37-year-old beat Tatiana Maria in straight sets. Venus Williams recovered from losing the first set to defeat Mihaela Buzarnescu and has advanced to the next stage of the competition.
All right, Dan, good stuff. Cork Camogie star Amy O'Connor and Waterford captain Niamh Rockett popped into studio yesterday for the launch of the Littlewoods Ireland Camogie Leagues. Yesterday, Littlewoods Ireland announced that they're going to be streaming a minimum of 6 league games throughout the spring, with the goal of bringing the sport to over 100,000 fans. Here's Amy and Niamh at the state of Camogie in 2019 and what needs to happen for the game to improve.
Amy, I guess we'll start with you. 2018 wasn't a bad year, I think it's fair to say. I think back-to-back All-Irelands, 4 All-Irelands in 5 years. And whenever somebody speaks about you, they always say, she's got 4 All-Irelands at the age of 22. Is that something that particularly motivates you, that you've won so much at a relatively young age?
Yeah, I suppose when I came into senior team, there was a couple of us came in together all around the same age. We kind of came from minor, and I don't think we expected to be where we were now. I don't think, if you asked me when I joined the senior panel, if I had won All Ireland at this stage, I would have been delighted. But yeah, it's brilliant and we're delighted. So,
has the 3 in a row been mentioned much in the camp?
Not within the camp, but outside camp, everyone's kind of throwing it out there. It's not really something we think about too much because we might get ahead of ourselves, but we're under no illusions. Like, I don't think a Cork team has ever done it in the modern game in the 15-a-side, and I think only 2 teams have done it, so it's not going to be easy, and we won't rest on our laurels. We know that there's an awful lot of work to be done, and we definitely need to do more than we did last year. And
well, what would it be? Wexford and Tipperary have done 3 in a row at this point?
I think, in the early 2000s, I think Tipperary did it, and then in maybe 9, 10 and 11 or something like that, Wexford done it, so it's not easy to do, and even a couple of years ago we couldn't do it ourselves, so as I say, we're not under any illusions. We know that there's work to be done. And
yeah, because they're like teams that we'd all remember watching. I'm not sure, is that the same with you, Niamh? Is it those Wexford and Tipperary teams that you remember watching? Because obviously from your own perspective, I think certainly in the modern game, I can't remember a current Waterford team that's doing as well as they're doing now in terms of going up through the rungs. So is it fair to say that perhaps you were looking at inspiration from other counties as well in terms of the top level of Camogie talent?
Yeah, well, look, at the moment, I suppose the likes of Cork and Kilkenny and Galway are all up the top at the moment, so all of us other teams in senior are trying to get up to that standard at the moment, they're a good bit ahead of us at the moment. When I was growing up, I suppose, looking in Wexford, looking at Ursula Jacob and the Lacey's and stuff like that, they were my idols when I was growing up, they were unbelievable all through the years, they were at the top of their game in the early 10s, so they were brilliant.
The one thing that I find really helps is when there's a great rivalry and a great storyline to kind of enhance everything that we're watching over the last couple of years. How real is the rivalry with Kilkenny?
There's a big rivalry there between the 2 teams. I think people may, not because they're sick of the Kilkenny and Cork rivalry, but I don't think the games are attractive to watch between us, and I don't think it's doing much for the game by it being constantly Cork and Kilkenny. In my opinion, I don't think Galway are too far behind. I'd always tip Galway at the start of the year to be there or thereabouts, because I think they're a good team, and the likes of Waterford and Tipperary are really coming on as well in Dublin last year. But the All-Ireland final this year wasn't a good spectacle to watch. It wasn't attractive, and it doesn't do anything for the game if the game's being televised.
Why was that, do you think?
I think, unfortunately, when Cork and Kilkenny play each other, in my opinion, I think Kilkenny they're very defensive minded. They don't leave the game flow. I think great credit has to be due for the Cork and Dublin ladies football teams. In this year's All-Ireland final, both of them went for it, and it was a really exciting game. It was good to watch. People will look at more Gaelic football games this year because of it, and I just don't think that, unfortunately, with the Cork and Kilkenny rivalry and the amount of frees given in games is not helping.
The referee did get a lot of stick after that game, I do recall. Would you agree with the idea that a defensive mindset from Kilkenny didn't help that day? Yeah,
I think it was just defensive on both sides. It was just kind of I suppose from one team were playing into the other team, and it just both went in the defensive setup, whatever way, whoever went with it first. And I suppose the referee didn't really help things, the way it was, and there wasn't a lot of free flow to the game, which really when there was a stop-start to the game, it's very, very hard to watch, and I suppose the thing might be looking at is that, the likes of the girls at the moment, they're getting stronger and they're getting fitter, there should be no difference between us and the hurling, we're not allowed to shoulder in hurling.
That's the thing, there is a rules difference.
Yeah, not allowed to shoulder in Camogie, and you can hand pass the goal and different things like that, so maybe it's looking at a broader spectacle and saying we need to adopt the hurling rules, because girls are well able for it, they don't need to be minded in games and stuff like that. I suppose that's where the promotion that the ladies football are getting this year, I suppose with the final, as Amy said, it was a brilliant spectacle, but the amount of people that they had at the All-Ireland and everything was just brilliant, and it's all down to promotion of it, and I suppose the way that any team can win it, I suppose, in the ladies football, so that's where the Camogie need to go towards, I think.
Yeah, for sure, 50,000 was an unbelievable turnout for that. It's definitely something, when you see it on this island, when you see it so close to home, you can easily say to yourself, that's achievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I think it's something that the Camogie could easily achieve over the next couple of years. Do you think it is as simple as a rule change to allow, I don't want to use the term full contact, because it is a contact sport, but essentially that's what it would be if we played by hurling's rules. I don't personally see the barrier to it. Why aren't we making that next step?
Yeah. I don't actually blame the referees, they're only implementing the rules.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the free count is outrageous. Some games there might be 38 frees for each team. It's not right, and the referees can't be blamed because they're only doing what they're told. They're playing the game by the rules. And if they didn't, they'd probably be slated by other people for not doing that. Yeah. But I do think maybe a rule change could could help the game. Might be a bit more free flow. And even our semi-final, there was an awful lot of frees again.
Yeah.
But I do think a rule change would help us.
Even like they might maybe like down the line, like they need to be start going into like looking at amalgamating the both of them, like you know, like hurling and camogie, like you know, I know it might be a bit away, but like we want to be playing the same rules, like you know, we're able to like stand up as much as anyone else can, like as well the hurling rules as most camogie rules. We play with boys underage as well, like I'm sure Amy played with the boys underage as well, like you know, there should be no difference in between the two of them anyway.
You'd hope it's only a matter of time anyway before that sort of thinking does come to the forefront. Niamh, I did want to talk about this year with you. You're captain this year for Waterford. How you adjusted to that leadership role, and congratulations by the way on attaining that role.
Yeah, look, it's brilliant to captain the team this year. Like, you know, they're a great group of girls, and I suppose given our success last year, like we got to the quarter final for the first time in our ever, like with Waterford Camogie. I suppose I've been there since the junior in 2011, so we came from junior to intermediate to senior now. So I'm delighted, like, to be able to captain the girls. I suppose even though I'm 25, I'm more the most experienced girls on the team, like, you know, which is scary for the girls that are going through. But it's brilliant, like, you know, and there's loads of girls on the team that could have been picked, so I was just delighted that the manager picked me.
Yeah, you spoke about last year. I dare say you're not satisfied just with where you ended up last year. Obviously, I think it was a 7-point defeat to Tipperary in an All-Ireland quarter-final. Like, it has been a fairly meteoric rise coming from winning junior. You were on that junior team, like, and you are 25 at the moment, so it just shows how recent it was. Then you won intermediate, and now you're competing in an All-Ireland quarter-final. Again, I dare say, it's kind of patronising to say, oh, you're happy enough with a quarter-final, narrow enough defeat and holding your own. I presume you want to go on to bigger and better things.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Last four potentially is in your sights over the next couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, we're hoping to build, and I suppose, like, it's a testament to all the underages in our county are going from all up in the A's now. Minors, under 16s, under 14s, we're all up in the A grades. We're competing at the best we can. I suppose what's really, really good is that there's loads of success underage with the schools in Waterford as well. They're in Munster colleges, A colleges, all finals as well. And we got even Beck Carrington last year. She got her first Waterford All-Star as well. Like, you know, that was the first ever in Waterford. So hopefully we'll build on that now for the next couple of years. And I don't think like we're ever going to rest in our laurels and say, oh yeah, we're happy to be beaten in the quarter final. We want to be competing with the likes of Cork's, Kilkenny's, Galway's. Like, you know, we want to be up there at the top. We want to be into Croke Park. Like, you know, we're not going to just say we're happy to plod along this year.
Well, that's very interesting, because quite often what you have is a quirk in the system where one great bunch of players come along in a generation and they achieve something and then they fade back down to mediocrity or down to intermediate or junior in this case. But from what you're saying there, it seems that there is a structure in place that this is going to see continued success for Waterford Camogie for the next couple of decades potentially. What is the main reason behind that? Has there just been a greater focus on the sport in the county?
I suppose when we came from junior, there's a good group of us then, and then we went on to intermediate, and it took us maybe 3 years to get from intermediate up to senior. There's a massive step up between intermediate and senior, like in the country. I suppose it depends what managers you get. Being honest, like, not a lot of hurling managers want to get into camogie because they want to see it as a step, and they prefer to get into an underage boys structure as opposed to a senior, maybe women's structure or whatever the case may be. But they'd be really, it'll be, I suppose, Waterford looked at, we need to get up to the senior standard. We need to get up there. We want to be competing. We don't want to just have a couple of people that will bring us through it. So they looked at, from the last maybe 4 or 5 years, they looked at bringing on the under 14s, under 15s, under 16s. They made all the way a couple of years through. Like, I think it was Saturday, we had an under 14 trial and there was 128 people at it.
Wow.
Just for the under 14 trial, like, you know. So it's all the county board and all the people that are volunteering in the county. They don't want to just see one blip through. They want to just keep it going, keep consistently coming through. So that's why all the younger girls, like, our average age might be 21 in the panel now, because they just want girls to come through, like.
I guess from your perspective, it's good to see other counties around Munster stepping it up. Maybe in a couple of years, if the parity is there and there's consistent good Waterford teams, you'll probably reverse that opinion. But at the moment, it's probably good to see as many good counties as possible coming through.
Yeah, definitely, it's good. Like last year, Tipperary made a semi-final, and Waterford, we played Waterford and the Munster as well. And with Cork, like, we've huge respect for the likes of Tipperary, the likes of Waterford, because when they play against us, they go for it. They don't put 10 behind the ball. They genuinely go for it, and it makes it exciting. Like, it's a good game to watch. So we've huge respect for the likes of Tip and Waterford, and they can only get better. So it's good to see that there's more teams competing in the championship.
All right, so some shots fired a little bit by Amy O'Connor. You're talking about the state of the game. You're like, you know, so those games against Kilkenny, why are they so hard to watch? Well, they're very defensive. That's what I took from that. I mean, maybe we're but those teams do not like each other.
No, they really don't. Cork and Kilkenny hate each other, and it's great. So it's all Kilkenny's fault that last year's All-Ireland final was a fairly poor affair. Like we did mention the referee there, and to be fair, like you can't blame the referee, but you can blame the rules and the rules that are being implemented, and the lack of being able to go full contact like hurling. That just needs to change. That needs to be a rule. It just needs to be flipped on its head right now, because it's going to make the game far more palatable for people to watch. And that is probably the main reasons why there's such a disparity in attendance between All-Ireland Camogie final day and All-Ireland Ladies football final day.
Yeah, they probably need to get the marketing right as well.
Probably, that's definitely improved over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think you need help from brands like Littlewoods who are coming along and saying, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to put our heft behind it, because they're used to reaching large audiences. And look, it's the type of thing that, it's like the Cork football story. Once everybody decides we're going to fix this, you begin to fix things. And that's what it takes.
Yeah, basically. And I think they're on the right path. I think just fixing there's some easy wins in fixing top level camogie and rules, and like allowing it to basically be just a different version of hurling would be a lot better, I think.
Yeah. All right, so Niamh Rockett was obviously part of that conversation there and has been named as the Waterford captain for the coming season, but it's been an incredible battle for her to get this far. At the age of just 16, she was told by doctors that if she continued to play competitive sport, she would end up in a wheelchair. Have a look.
They want to ask about being a dual player, but also about, you were a dual player as well previously. You played other sports. You're just playing camogie at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just playing camogie, yeah.
To what extent is that down to the injuries that you've gone through?
Yeah, look, I suppose when I was 16, I was playing hockey, football, soccer and camogie all together. That's why I went into PE teaching. I'm just a sport fanatic, really. And I got told I needed to go for an operation on my knee. I was limping on my knee and I got keyhole on my knee, and I was told I needed to break my knees and realign them at 16 by like a doctor as well. So my father was quite upset as well, so he kind of took me out of hospital. He's like, no, we'll play on for a couple of years and patch it up, kind of a thing, go to a few physios and stuff like that, like. But
very Irish reaction.
Yeah, very Irish, like a pure Irish daddy, like, then it wasn't sufficing really, like, then I went to play the match against Meath in the intermediate in one of the Division 2 league, and I got a really bad bang there. A girl kind of stuck out her leg as I was running past her, and I just got a concussion that game. I didn't walk I didn't jog for 15 months after that, like.
So when was this? This was a couple of years after the initial.
Yeah,
so you would have been, what, 18, 19 years old?
At the time then I was about maybe 20.
Right, okay.
And it was a couple of years after, and it was just all down to it. So then I went and I got done in Santry in Dublin and got my knee came out of place, had to be realigned and stuff again. And the doctor told me I shouldn't be playing anymore. And he said, there's just too much wear and tear. There's no cartilage behind my kneecap. So it was really, really tough to take at the time, because everything in my life was sports. And it was really, really hard, because when you're playing all sports, and Amy herself, she played loads of soccer as well, when you have to pick between one and never even getting to play one even a game. Amy played a couple of different sports, but not even being able to play any sport was really, really hard to take. So I went down to Cork and I went to physio Declan Sullivan, and he was just brilliant, and he just kind of said, look, we'll just take it as we see it, and we'll try get your back running, but we're trying to, main thing is rehabilitation, So now I suppose I'm lucky with the way the management have now at the moment. They can just, I have arthritis in my knee, so it could be really, really bad some days. Some days I mightn't be after sleeping all night. Some days I might be good and I'm able to do training. But they'd be very good, they'd be allowing me to go to the gym or go on the bike instead of doing pitch sessions and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's all about minding. So I don't know if I have 1 year, if I have 3 years, hopefully I'll have a bit more than 3 years, but I don't know. I just keep playing till I can't play anymore, I suppose.
And what was the end game if it didn't work out? As in, so in Santry they said that you shouldn't be playing. What happens? What was the worst case scenario if you did keep playing, in their view? Their
view is that I'm going to be in a wheelchair by the time I'm 30. That's what they said. By the time you're 30 or 31, you won't be able to run anymore. It'll be just continuous wear and tear. And thankfully, there's new methods coming out. And I did an interview last year, and someone wrote to me on Facebook, and they said to me that they read my interview and they had a similar problem with their knee, and they recommended a clinic in Dublin that actually insert cartilage into your knee to kind of protect your kneecap. So I'm going to be looking into that now, maybe next year at the off season as well. So. There's always different methods that are coming out. I suppose, I don't know what my knee is going to be like, or how good of a PE teacher I'll be in a couple of years' time. I suppose you might call it naive or stupidity or something, but I just love the game so much that I keep going, and there will be a day that I'll say I can't go anymore, but for now I'm just trying to mind myself and try to play as best I can.
That's Niamh Rockett from the Waterford Camogie team talking about incredible knee injuries and that she suffered, and great to see her back. So anyway, let's move on because we're going to talk a bit about the Sopranos. We're going to bring you our crappy, snappy quiz, and we're going to bring you this as well. So we've been talking a good bit about Munster and their identity and exactly what the philosophy of Johan van Grant's Munster is going to look like when eventually he gets all his players available to him. Last weekend, pretty much all the players that he needed to be able to affect his game plan properly were on the field. So have a look. Here he is talking about the improvements that they've made recently.
Yeah, I'd like to think that over the last 14 months we've made some improvements in the Munster game, and it's definitely not only down to me. It's a lot of coaches and a lot of players involved, and everybody chipping away and giving their input. And I said it from the first day, this club is not about me. I'm just a coach at this stage, and you've got to drive it. Obviously there's a lot of things that I believe in that I think that we are currently doing well, and I think one of those things are decision making. Yes, the attack's becoming better, but our kicking game as well, and the way we maul. And if you've got a 9 and a 10 and a 12 and a 15 that makes good decisions and put you on the front foot, you do put pressure on teams in their own 22. And I thought the kicking over the last 2 weeks was very good, and the fact that we kicked well gave us broken field opportunities, and we've managed to punish the last two teams with that. So yes, there's improvements, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, it's really a team transformed from the two European from Heineken Cup semi-final defeats in the last 2 seasons. When you consider the talent that they have available to them now versus the talent that was available on those days. Did Farrell play in either of those games? Was he fit?
No, sure, he would have been gone. He would have been gone for the last
exactly.
season. Definitely.
Yeah. So he suffered the injury during the Six Nations and missed the semi-final, and they had nothing. And they've got a full back now that allows them to play their two others who maybe had to. So obviously, Orez was always in the wing, but
Conway on the wing. I think that's a point that kind of hasn't been pushed out there enough. The idea of Conway being back in the wing. Obviously, when Zebo was playing full back, got a good bit of time on the wing, but now it definitely seems that the best combination of back three.
You've just reminded me, they didn't pick Zebo at the start of the semi-final last year, which was a ludicrous decision, and one that they're going to have to retrospectively go, oh, what were we doing? But anyway, they didn't, and that was a mistake. It seems like they've got those mistakes out of their system, and now they've just got a much better flow. Not to mention the obvious, they've got a 10 who can unlock all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it has been pointed out quite a bit since Friday night, but it does help that he is playing beside the best scrum half in the world, behind one of the best back rows in European club rugby really at the moment, and a pack that is on song. So that's definitely helped the whole situation quite a bit, and it helps somebody like him who's made mistakes, like in the Castres game. To be fair, I wonder, are we hamming up actually the idea of what a disaster that Castres game really was? The people are like, oh, it's amazing, he's kicked 100% off the tee since then. But was it not simply the fact that it was just a really crap day in Castres and a lot of the kicks were really tricky?
I don't know, I think that
that definitely has to come into it a little bit.
Yeah, but also I think that like bouncing back from setbacks is the type of stuff that you look for from all of your best players who are going to be leaders into the future, and loads of players quail when that happens.
Yeah, that is true. It could have been an opportunity for him to pack it in and go into his shell for a couple of weeks and try and regenerate as the season more on, but that hasn't happened.
And everybody talks about how it's going to take time to settle into a new system, blah, 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 but actually, screw that, I'm really good. And we are now to a point where they're title contenders, and anything short of a really strong semi-final performance from Munster this year, where they're right in it to the very end, is going to be a massive disappointment.
The weird thing is, when we did our crystal ball last Friday, you tipped Munster to win the Champions Cup and I tipped Leinster. I'm sure your view is hardened since Friday night, but my view is also hardened a little bit since Saturday, and watching that Leinster performance on Saturday, if I know it's a big if in the current landscape that everybody does get fit, but even if there is 60% of the absentees from Leinster are fit come the business end of the Champions Cup, you have to say there isn't a squad in Europe like it. There isn't a team in Europe like it. You have to say, even on the starting 15 level, before you get into the depth of them versus Munster, they are still the benchmark. They are still the favourites, and for me, there is still a bit of distance between them and the rest.
If you put because you had the if there, if everybody's fit. So if you put the two teams that played the weekend up against each other in a semi-final in the Aviva,
that is the question, and I think Munster win. In the Aviva, does that tip the scales in Leinster's favour a bit? It probably does, a tiny bit. But Not hugely, I would suspect. I would say if you put those two teams up against, and that is a good question, if you put those two teams up against each other from the Friday against Leinster Saturday team, I think Munster win. But the thing is, Leinster are so far away from full strength. It's absurd that they were that good in the second half against Toulouse.
It's not beyond the bounds of possibility that team or an equivalent to that team, pardon me, as a team, James Lowe would play.
Yes. Johnny Sexton will play. Robbie Henshaw will play.
Well, only if they're fit.
Come the semi-finals of the Champions Cup.
Well, let's wait and see. I mean, they would obviously play if they're fit, no doubt. 100% they would play if they're fit. But I just don't know if. I don't have very high expectations that a lot of the players who are frontliners for Ireland are going to be fit for a lot of games for the rest of the season.
Certainly in the pack.
I think there are going to be little niggles that normally you play through in big games. That this year they're like, I like your hustle. That's why I'm going to have to cut you.
Yeah,
sitting this one out.
Yeah, you do wonder if they were at the end of their tether in Bilbao last year up against Racing. Obviously, it was. I'm not sure it was one of their poorer performances in the Champions Cup. It was certainly the closest game they had, and that's kind of down to how good Racing were in parts of that game as well. But you do wonder if they were close to the end. And as you say, if they're in that position this year, are they risking that player in that position with the big autumn we've got coming up from an Irish perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I suppose you would like to think that because the game is so big and it's great testing ground to keep players at a level and they've got enough time to come back down. But if it's like a hamstring injury that has the potential to become chronic, or if it's like a back injury that they're unsure of, no, you're not playing.
Yeah, and that may be the case with a lot of those people in the pack because they've had their injuries down through the years. I wouldn't be too concerned about some of the backs, to be quite honest. I think once Henshaw's back in full flow, he kind of tends to get that way where it's not really kind of a question about it. The James Lowe situation obviously isn't injury related, but once he's back, that's two huge players straight away, like Henshaw and Lowe. Even if you just take two of them, is what I'm trying to say, that's still a vastly improved team. And you're talking about a vastly improved team from a team that just crushed Toulouse.
Yeah, so if you put Henshaw and Lowe on that team, or you
just pick any two.
Would tilt it back? Does that tilt it back enough? Does any two tilt it back?
Yes. To a slight favouritism. You add them all in, and they're healthy enough favourites, I think.
I don't know.
That being said, you look at what happened down in Thomond over the course of Christmas, and is that actually going to become part of the storyline now?
But there was no Chris Farrell in Thomond, and was Peter Manny playing that game?
That's what I mean. I'm using that to support Munster's case, obviously.
Yeah.
And the Thomond factor may tip it back again, but I do think that is becoming part of the narrative.
So many of those Munster players obviously are right at home at the Aviva, given that they're actually Leinster players. Fergal Kearney says experimental GAA rules, everyone giving out about football, so they changed the rules. Everyone now giving out about changing the rules. If you don't play football as a child, I actually don't understand how you can watch it. Hashtag OTBAM. The game is gone is the phrase I believe that they use in instances like this.
When it's good, it's still great.
Are you worried about the future of Gaelic football?
Yes, of course I am.
Why?
Because there's been so many terrible games over the last few years, and in fact it's become pandemic to the point where there are far more crap games endemic than there are good games, which is the worst thing about this. Keep going, come on.
Pandemic.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. The lack of a Mayo in the business end of last year's championship really showed up what football is. Without a gutsy team who were willing to put it up to the best team in the country.
We didn't talk about it, but hurling generates 800 grand more than football for Leinster was the Colm Key story. Colm Key is great with the figures.
Yeah.
Just kind of pointing that out. Now, okay, there's a replay, right? But it brings in $250,000. Also, if I was Galway, I'd be looking at this going, right? Yeah? What? I'm sorry, what? You're making loads of money off the back of having us in your senior championship?
Oh, come on. The reason why that made loads more money last year is because of the new format.
Fair enough. There's extra games.
It's not like Galway have been there for as far as I can remember now at this point. So
saving the Leinster Championship over the last decade when no one would keep the ball poked out to Kilkenny.
Yeah, but if you're talking about transforming it from last year to this year and making that profit, you can't just say, of course, Galway being there helps, but it's not like a...
And Galway getting the game in Salt Hill, which brought in $250,000, 248,235 generated by Kilkenny's trip to Salt Hill.
It's a bloody good championship, the Leinster Hurling Championship, enhanced by the fact that there was a round-robin format. The figures enhanced by the fact that there are more games due to that format. There aren't very many good games in the Leinster Championship. In fact, there isn't one single meaningful game in the Leinster Football Championship due to the fact that it's a foregone conclusion. That being said, you take Dublin out of the Leinster Football Championship and it suddenly becomes the best football championship in the country.
Nah, that's all bollocks.
Most competitive.
Well, I mean, no. Ulster's still better.
No.
Yes.
Disagree. Disagree. In terms of most competitive,
the quality is way better.
I'm not talking about quality. I'm not talking about
You
quality.
said the best.
Okay, let me rearrange those words.
So
And
now
let's
it's
say
like-
most competitive instead of best.
Now it's also the most mediocre.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that.
Oh, let's watch this turgid mediocrity.
At least it's close.
I mean,
in terms of like competitiveness.
Division 3 football.
Like Longford beating Meath last year, Carlow beating Kildare. Like
Division 3, the hardest division to get out
take
of.
this in isolation is what I'm trying. Of course, nobody from the Leinster Championship is going to win the All Ireland.
No,
but it would be a bloody good championship between 10 teams.
Adrian McGrath says 12 managers who responded should be made public in order to see whether the loudest critics responded. That's a good point, Adrian. It's if only some enterprising journalists could get their hands on the leaked submissions from the managers. Yeah, these rules are grand, that's fine. These rules are an abomination. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Or silence from 20 managers obviously didn't bother their holes responding.
Yeah, I'm sure they're busy phoning up their players and seeing if they're ready to go for the new year and stuff like that, and they can't be bothered with the wider picture of Gaelic games.
Cian Ryan says the game is not in crisis, the only crisis is championship structures and fixtures.
Well, it's a bigger crisis for sure. It is the big issue.
And that's the preeminent one. The only slight counter-argument to this is that those club football matches in... Well, I don't know. It was somebody against Loughneel, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That had the back and forth. Now, Loughneel were like the best team in Derry for a long period of time. So they're two relatively even teams, right? And the notion that the even teams will automatically lead to attacking football isn't true at club level. Having said that, you would expect most counties to be slightly better, and the counties who will be better will be rewarded because they're the ones who win over a consistent period of time, and things will change. So I don't know if that's just aping the inter-county, if that's just not very good coaches and managers across the country spreading the virus of mediocre football because they see it at inter-county level, or if it is actually what's effective at club level.
Well, one decent solution is not going to fix a massive problem here. I would ask people to suggest when was the last time we saw a truly great inter-county football match between two teams of vastly different quality. And the answer is it rarely happens. Like the best games last year, Armagh against Roscommon, similar enough standards. Galway against Kildare, similar enough standards. And they were the two standout football games from my recollection of last year's football championship, and that is the key. You will get a better chance of good games.
Kildare Mayo was a far better game than Galway.
Kildare Mayo, another one. Two Division 1 teams, of course. Kildare ended up getting relegated last year from Division 1, but still relatively similar standards. You have a better chance if you're putting better teams together and worse teams together. It's not going to fix anything, nor will these rules.
James Warney says, it all depends on what type of game we want. To me, I'd have made one change and look at limiting how many can tackle the ball players surround him. It might make the game more man-on-man.
Well, we may as well reassign the 2003 All-Ireland to Kerry in that point.
Why?
The absolute savagery from Tyrone in the All-Ireland semi-final. The crowding of the man.
Oh, you're such a victim. Neil Keegan says, lads, it's not the scrum, it's counting hand passes. If the ref can't count, then it's a problem. It's a fair point. It's hard, like you look away, was that a kick pass or a hand pass? I didn't see, the ball just floats. A lot of kick passes now have the same trajectory because, the skills of the game have improved to a point where footballers can kick off both feet. Kieran Byrne says the experimental GAA rules. Remember everyone saying hurling was in crisis as a sport when the sweeper became popular at the start of Derek McGrath's tenure. This year was one of the greatest hurling years ever. New rules, no way. There's definitely a sense that putting those teams up against each other in quick succession led to teams trying to find a way, and this is quick. It's going to be over in 5 or 6 weeks. We can't just be defensive because, I don't know.
There is a difference between a sweeper and a full defensive system now. That a sweeper is effective in hurling because there isn't blanket defences.
And you can score from so far out.
That also helps for sure. If you could play 7 men behind the ball, not including the goalkeeper in Gaelic football, it would be far better than the alternative we have at the moment. That is playing a sweeper plus your 6 backs.
Would it be stupid to have you're limited to this part of the field and you're limited to this part of the field and you can only have a certain number of people?
There's something weird about that. I don't know.
I'd like to trial it for a couple of games and see.
I'd like to see the impact of it. Like the half-court violation as they have in basketball with Joe Brody suggesting. I'd like to see that in action as well. But does that just compress people into the opposition blanket defence a little bit more. There's always a negative to be said about each and every one of these suggestions. I'd kind of like to see most of them in action and make a verdict after that.
Yeah.
And the National League is obviously a good ground for that.
Football has become unwatchable by anyone other than the utterly committed. Maybe that's not important. Here's the thing, that's not true. Like, if you watched Kildare's games in the Championship last year, they get knocked out by a team who are inferior to them. So, I mean, that's the last time there was a good football match between a team who was markedly inferior, Carlow Kildare game in the Championship. And then after that, all their games were actually really interesting. Like, they played Derry, 2 early goals, Derry make a comeback, seemingly abandoning their defensive nonsense, and Kildare squeak a win. They have another game before the Mayo game, I think, or maybe the Mayo game is next. No, they have another game before the Mayo game, and then there's the Mayo game, the Galway game. Yeah, they did. Like, okay, I'm obviously biased because I'm interested in what they're doing, but those games were good games. Like, they're the type of Championship matches that you want to see. And they could have had those in Division 2 of the Championship and then got promoted at the end of the year, and it was a positive year. It made sense because they made them their way into the Super 8s. Like, but instead, that Championship is completely irrelevant to this year's league campaign, which makes no sense.
Yeah, like just having 2 separate non-concurrent running events, it doesn't make sense really either. Like, it's worked for soccer down through the years, but even that is starting to wane quite significantly when it comes to actual cup competitions. Like, the league is the best competition we have in Gaelic football, and it's the least important if you discount pre-season.
Robert Hardigan says The Sopranos is still, even by current standards, the best TV show ever made. Hashtag OTBAM. Keane O'Mahony says Sopranos one of the best and always will be. Hashtag OTBAM. And Darren Siren says it's hard to even compare The Sopranos to crime dramas that have come after it. It's easily better than anything bar The Wire. It's the family drama element to it that sets it apart from the likes of True Detective. Only show that comes local to it, which is an interesting phraseology, but I like it. Darren, good man. Only show that comes local to it is Breaking Bad, IMO, and The Wire is untouchable. So there's like a 5 TV series that everybody talks about. The Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and the last one is Mad Men. Where did you send a Mad Men?
I got through, I think I got to the end of season 2.
All right, you stopped.
Yeah, no, it wasn't until I was that bored of it. I just wasn't that into it at the time. If I got back into it now, I'd probably have a better run at it. The rest of them, like Breaking Bad, I'm definitely the school of thought that it was a slow starter. A lot of people disagree with that it was actually quite a quick starter. I think once you make it to midway through season 3, get into season 4 Breaking Bad, then you're away. But like, there is a lot of sitting through, a lot of crap. Like the Fly episode in Breaking Bad, which a lot of people will be familiar with, is one of the worst television episodes of anything ever made. So to say that one of the worst television shows of anything ever made features in one of the best television shows ever made kind of is a bit of a contradiction. But I do love it in general. Out of that quintet, The Sopranos is the one I'm definitely least familiar with. I've only kind of flirted with the first season, and that was kind of when Sky Atlantic first launched. And I was like, this is amazing. You can serious link to Sopranos. And then I kind of had to do my leaving cert or something. Stupid school getting in the way.
Yeah. So we're going to go back and watch The Sopranos from the start, and you can shit on it week after week after week.
Well, I'm just saying that I'm not getting my hopes up to the point where it is glorified beyond all those other television shows. I do expect it to be in that bracket. So it is relative expectation, but the idea that it is head and shoulders above everything else, considering I've seen The Wire and watched Game of Thrones, I'm not sure it can be better than those two.
It's not head and shoulders above The Wire, because it just isn't. But then The Wire is dragged down by the lead balloon that is season 5.
4. Season
5.
Season 5.
The
one with all the journalists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, terrible season.
Yeah. And they ran out of money and they weren't sure they were going to get allowed to make the same. There's a shorter number of episodes, so maybe if that isn't as condensed as it is, it's not bad. But equally, I mean, I don't know. Maybe in retrospect, and when you see the rise of fake news and you see how Donald Trump is the end result of people making up stories to try and win Pulitzers, like, okay, maybe there was more to that than we thought the first time around. But Sopranos is amazing. Like, anyway, Brian Dunn, who says a decent 5-year plan from Cork, buying from the clubs is critical. Aidan McGrath. Oh, I did that one, sorry. And the Paulie Malignaggi, hey, don't drag air crash investigation into this. It's a great show. Not going to lie, I've never seen a full air crash investigation.
Neither have I. What's it on, like Bravo, if that television channel still exists? World's Most Amazing Videos was a good one, but that's kind of what it reminds me of.
But you can find those on YouTube now, right?
Well, that's true. It really killed that. And You've Been Framed was another victim of YouTube.
Paulie Malignaggi would take it more serious than Mayweather and beat Conor earlier. Only a fool and his money are easily parted. Turns out loads of people and their money are easily parted. You don't have to be a fool.
Are you using that comment to back up your argument and saying that you won that argument? That loads of people would watch this?
Over under on how much money everybody makes from it?
30 million each.
That's a load of money.
No, sorry, that's an individual, but that's purse. Like that's before pay-per-view. I don't know. I'm not great when it comes to like figures in general and numbers, like in terms of what the standard is for a big fight like this and what can be expected.
All right. As we mentioned earlier, Keith Andrews and Kevin Kilbane popped in for our Snappy quiz, which is available on Snapchat Discover. To find it, just open up Snapchat and search for Off the Ball. You can subscribe there. Here's a sample of what you can expect.
Okay, it is crappy quiz time here on Off the Ball on Snapchat. It is Keith versus Kev versus Ger. It's great hair against grand hair against a diminishing amount of hair.
You're a wanker.
We were having a debate before we came on air about veganism. It is
How do you
vegan.
describe your own hair?
2v2. Well, I'm not going to comment on my own hair. Let people out there judge.
You
my
comment
hair.
on others or on us. Why can't we comment on yours?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm just
Come back
saying.
to us in 5 years' time when you're Wayne Rooney's. You're like, little stitch one in.
If I can afford to be Wayne Rooney, I'm 100% doing it.
No chance.
Yes, I am.
Why would you?
More hair.
You would. Come on.
The waft of hair.
Wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
It's all well and good grey, but you can't be going bald.
No chance. No chance.
There's two things I want to do in life.
It's not acceptable.
Is save my hairline.
It's too vain. That's all I'm putting it out there now. Sorry, go on.
Save my hairline and save the planet. That is the biggest priority for me. And myself and Keith, Keith has actually followed through with it, has become a vegan to save the planet. Why haven't you?
Because I like meat too much.
What about the planet? Do you like the planet?
I love the planet, yeah.
You like life?
I'm thinking of my children. Yes, of course I am. But I will not be starting on a vegan diet, no. But can I ask you a question? So what's the point of being on a vegan diet if you want to drink 10 pints of Guinness on a weekend? Because 15 pints of Guinness?
Guinness isn't as bad for the planet as the production of meat is.
Can you say that for a fact?
Yes.
Fact.
How do you know?
Fact.
Because it's made out of
Guinness doesn't fart. Well, I mean, obviously you do get Guinness farts, but they're not as bad as the meat from the cow.
I don't want to go on a vegan diet. I like meat. I like eating meat. I enjoy meat. I'm not in excess eating meat, but I enjoy eating meat. Why would I want to change that? Why do I want to change that diet?
To save the planet. 70% reduction in your footprint if you go vegan.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So are you vegan? Are you on a vegan diet now?
I love meat as well, Kev, but I'm seriously considering it.
Well, you're not a vegan at the moment, then. Absolute bollocks. Serious to God, now I see. Honestly.
I thought we were doing a quiz.
One day, let's do a quiz. You ready to do a quiz? Okay, so it's pretty self-explanatory. Round one is the who's got more assists round. So I'm going to give you the name of two players. All you've got to do is tell me who's notched more Premier League assists in their entire career. Right. So question one for you, Keith. Who's got more Premier League assists? Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard?
You don't have to write it down. You just
say it. Yeah. All right. So I was hiding it and everything then.
Don't worry, I'm not looking at you.
Steven Gerrard.
Nah, it's Frank Lampard.
You got a bit of paper there.
102 assists. Yeah, you got a bit of paper there. Steven Gerrard has got 92 assists. So a bit of a surprise there, Keith. No score. Question one for you, Kev. Who's got more Premier League assists? Damien Duff or Mesut Ozil?
Ozil.
No. It's Damien Duff. Duff's got 55. Ozil's got 51.
Oh my God. It's not very close. Very close, yeah.
Very close. It's close all the way. Ger. Who's got more Premier League assists? Juan Mata or Leighton Baines?
Ooh. Juan Mata.
No, Baines.
No, it's Leighton Baines. Baines has 53, Mata has 50. So after round number one,
definitely not definite.
We're entirely scoreless. Round two, how do you feel after that? You know, it's your first time in the crappy.
I prefer Steven Gerrard over Lampard, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I was hoping that somebody might be in the lead here and actually trash talk for us, but that's not going to happen. Hopefully somebody takes the lead after round two. It is you versus the clock. So in this round, you've got to name as many items from a list I'm going to give you, and you've only got 10 seconds to do so.
What?
So you get a point for each item from the list that I ask you to name.
You get a point.
So, you know, things that are red or something. I will give you a thing, and you've got to name as many of that thing as possible in 10 seconds. It's pretty simple.
And
you're up first. So, Keith, name as many Premier League Golden Boot winners this century. You've got 10 seconds. Go.
Aguero, Drogba. This century.
Yes.
Fowler, Henry, Harry Kane.
Time's up. You've got 4. You've got Aguero, Drogba, Henry and Kane. So going in alphabetical order, Aguero 2015, Anelka 2009, Berbatov 2011, joint winner with Tevez actually that year. Rooney is not won a Golden Boot. Wayne Rooney has not won a Premier League Golden Boot.
Has he not? Ronaldo?
Ronaldo, yeah, 2008. Hasselbank, 2001 is one that I wouldn't have got. Henry's won it 4 times. Kane's won it twice. Kevin Phillips in 2000.
Suarez?
First winner of the century. Suarez, 2014. Salah last year. Ronaldo, as we said. Tevez, as I've already mentioned. Van Nistelrooy in 2003. And his countryman, Robin Van Persie, twice in 2012 and in 2013. So, Keith, you're on a score of 4. Kev, you are up. Name as many current Premier League jersey sponsors. You've got 10 seconds. Go.
Bloody hell. It's in betting companies. Honestly, yeah. Bet365, I don't know. Jeez, I don't know. Honestly, I don't pay any attention to betting sponsors.
Wow, what a capitulation. I couldn't even get to a word out there. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Did he get one? Is that one? Is that even one? No.
That was Stoke. They're gone from the Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was trying to help.
Chevy.
Let's go from an alphabetical order. To be fair, it's extremely tough. It was much easier 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
So AIA.
If you said to me from the 80s, I'd be going Hitachi, Sharp. I'd be going all these sort of lines. Yeah.
Crown paint.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make some sort of Newcastle-esque comeback here. Keith is 4-0 up on you. So it's AIA for Spurs, American Express for Brighton. The stadium is named after them. Betway, West Ham.
Wouldn't have got it.
Chevrolet, Manchester United.
Never got that one.
Dafabet, Fulham. Etihad, Manchester United. Fly Emirates, Arsenal. Fun 88, Newcastle. FX Pro, Watford. King Power, Leicester. Laba 360, Burnley, which I would not have got.
No.
LABA, Laba.
That's a betting company, isn't it?
Tough question, Kev.
Yeah, M88, Bournemouth, ManBet X, Palace, OPE
all I do
Sports.
all the commentary on teams, I actually do not look at the sponsor of the side. Yeah.
Sport Pesa is Everton, Standard Chartered Liverpool, Tourism Malaysia, Cardiff, Virgin Media Southampton, as you boys should know, W88 is Wolves, and Yokohama Tyres is Chelsea. So a score of 0 there. So the comeback of all comebacks required, Kev.
Right, there you go.
Question 2 for you, Ger. Name as many countries that have hosted the World Cup. Joint hosts count as 1. 10 seconds, go.
Brazil, Germany, Italy, Spain, England, Japan, South Korea.
Six. Good. You got Argentina, England, Germany, Italy, Japan, and South Korea, which counts as 1, and Spain. The ones you missed were Brazil.
I said Brazil first.
Sorry, Brazil is one. Sorry, you missed Argentina. You missed Chile.
Oh, I should just gone through in order.
You missed France. You missed Mexico, Russia.
South Africa.
South Africa. Sweden, Switzerland, the United States, and Uruguay were the other ones. So you've got 6. So
it's a bit easier, your question.
Oh, I nailed that, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking who is the former professional footballer, and who's not.
I can't believe you missed who has more assists.
I think he's more likely to get the sponsors than me. That's what I would say.
I was not getting.
Jer's very much pays attention to things, doesn't he? Yeah, he does, yeah.
You know, the Emirates, the Etihad. I might have been able to name those.
Yeah. So it's Ger on 6, Keith on 4, Kev on 0 as we go into round number 3. You can make a big comeback here, Kev, if you get this one.
Let's see.
Because this is the closest to the number round. You're all going to write down an answer to the following question. And the closest to the number wins 3 points. So if you're closest here, Kev, you go back within 1 point or 3 points of Keith or Ger, respectively. So, tell me the exact number of senior Ireland caps sitting in this studio. Write down a number. We're going to need you to commit a pen to paper there, Kev.
Yeah.
Keith, we're going to need an answer. Keith, time's up.
I got it.
139 is Keith's. 152 is Kev.
151.
151. 145 is the answer. Ger wins the point.
Oh. How do you two not know?
Sorry, you're 151.
Yeah.
And you're 139. That's equidistant from 145.
I thought Keith had 4. I had him down for 42.
I'm down for 37.
35.
How many have you got?
110.
I said you down for 104.
114 you've got.
Equidistant.
No.
What have you got?
110.
You've got 110?
Yeah.
Okay. You got that number right yourself.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's the only one I've got right.
So
what was the correct answer?
3 points each.
The correct answer is 145. So you're 151, which is 6 away. You're 139, which is 6 away.
But isn't it closest without going over.
Yeah. That's the way they normally do it.
You didn't listen to too much of the actual
well, I'm with Keith.
No. There's a few judges in there. No.
You don't go in excess, so you stay under.
That's why they always do on the shows like that, and then they just go one under.
Yeah.
No.
I'm giving you
Don't be scared because he's the boss.
Honestly. Mr. Big Shot, he wants to go.
Hang on a second. You obviously aren't paying enough attention.
He's not chasing just Ger's job. He's chasing Pat Kenny's job. That boy over there. I tell you, honestly.
So the correct answer is 145. Kev at 110. Keith with 35. On to the final, the true or false rapid fire round. Kev, you're officially out of contention here, but we'll see if you can add some respect to your scoreline. We're going to give you 5 questions each. All the answers are true or false.
Right.
So Kev, you're treading behind. We're going to go with you first.
Yeah.
So 5 true or false questions. So true or false? Jack Wilshere is currently injured.
Oh, jeez.
That's horrendous.
True.
Correct. Gaetan Bong plays for Huddersfield.
False.
Correct. It's Brighton. The 2018 Champions League final took place in Cardiff.
2018. False.
Correct. It was Kiev. Colombia were knocked out of last year's World Cup by England.
True.
Correct. And Norwich City are top of the championship.
True.
False. It's Leeds. So you got 4, Kev. Pretty respectable.
Bollocks.
Keith, you're coming second. You probably need to get all 5 here to put the pressure on Ger. True or false? Manchester United are the last English Champions League winners.
False.
Correct. Chelsea. Cameroon are reigning Africa Cup of Nations champions.
True.
Correct. Karabag are a football club based in Kazakhstan.
False.
Correct. Azerbaijan. Kevin Kilbane finished his career at Coventry City.
True.
Correct. Greece won Euro 2000.
Was it 2000?
Need an answer.
False.
Correct. You got 5 out of 5. Putting the pressure on Ger. So you're on 12 now. Ger, you're on 9. You need 4 to win.
Shit, really? I thought I was like way ahead.
And I need you to win because I haven't written a tiebreaker. True or false? Brian Clough is Burton Albion manager.
False.
Correct. It's Nigel. Derby County play at the City Ground.
False.
Correct. Pride Park. Pep Guardiola is reigning Premier League manager of the season. Need an answer?
False.
Wrong. It's true.
Yeah.
Benjamin Pavard will join Manchester or Bayern Munich at the end of the season.
True.
Correct. And to win it, Bayern Munich are top of the Bundesliga.
False.
Correct. Dortmund are. Ger wins by a point. There you go. 13. Keith
Suck it
at 12.
with your 137 caps.
You hold the honour of being the least stupid member of Team Off the Ball this week. That's what it says in my script. I didn't write this. The Krabby Quiz is back here, right on Snapchat every single week. Do follow us and stay tuned for more.
Boom.